I want to officially open this meeting with a call to order roll call vote. Starting with
Jack
Jack.
Creighton here.
Mary Evans here.
Jean Haley Dippold here.
Diane Kennedy here.
Carrie Thompson here. And all are invited to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance if they'd like. I have my handy dandy flag right here. I pledge
I
allegiance
have my own.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice
for all.
for all.
Okay. All right, I will read our virtual meeting language like we usually do. Tonight's meeting will be conducted on the Zoom platform and live streamed on Cohasset 143 TV and our Facebook page. The public is invited to participate on Zoom, which can be accessed using the link provided at the top of the posted agenda for tonight's meeting. All members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by me. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participant, and all votes taken tonight will be by a roll call vote. Any members of the public who wish to ask questions, please raise your hand virtually on Zoom, and at my discretion, we will let you into the meeting. Also, please provide your full name and address for our public record. Please note that comments on Facebook are not being monitored, and this meeting is being recorded and available for later viewing on our town page. All right, moving on to our agenda. If anyone would like to give a public comment, please raise your hand. Oh, didn't. I don't see anyone yet, so we can move on to approval of minutes. I believe we have a few to approve. I know there were a couple questions on these minutes from last week, so how are you all feeling? Corey, I saw your hand first and then Diane.
Yeah, so I've got some changes and corrections for 1214 and 118.
Okay,
And the other thing is that the middle meeting was actually on, not on the 4th as it shows in the agenda. It was actually on the, whatever it was, the 11th, I think. So I don't know if we should
no,
approve that or.
it was on the 4th, wasn't it?
Thanks.
I'm pretty sure we did. No, it was on the 4th.
The meeting was on the 4th. Yeah, there was a meeting on the 4th and on the 18th.
So in the packet, there's an 11th, there's a 14th, and then there's the 18th. So not all things can be true here.
I know we met on the 4th, so that needs to be fixed. I'm positive we had a meeting on the 4th.
No, we did meet on the 4th. Corey is right. It's listed on the agenda incorrectly. It should have been the 11th. You already voted the 4th meeting.
Okay, that's
So
Good
that was my
clarification.
mistake. Thanks,
Okay.
Corey.
perfect clarification. Okay. Corey, what do you want to go over your changes for the 14th and the 18th?
I don't want to do it. There's a bunch of
Okay.
changes. I can
All right,
redline
so
it and then send it to the clerk.
You want to
Yeah,
hold it off?
there's
Okay,
some things that were missing. Yeah.
that's fine. All right, Diane.
Yeah, I mean, I only have one small thing that I noted on the 18th, which is Jean's, I believe she recused herself on one of the votes and she just dropped from the vote. So I just want to make sure that gets corrected.
Okay.
And I showed up late. It was weird because there was.
Yep, I remember that recruit. Yeah, I remember that.
So
All
that
right,
was my
well, let's
only
just-
change.
Let's hold off and table all of these till the next meeting after changes are given.
Yeah, I think the recusal's on there. It's just hard to see maybe because of the way it's written. So yeah, we can address that.
All right, yeah, double check, Jean, if it's written in a way that you.
Yeah, I
think
did
it's-
check for that. It's there, but I can see where it might be confusing.
All right, I can recheck that too. All right. We'll table the minutes till our next meeting. Moving on to our licenses, permits, and events, we have several exciting ones tonight to talk about. Our first one, I want to welcome our wonderful town council, Jim Lampke. Thanks for being here again, Jim.
Well, always nice to see all of you and hope everyone survived the storm okay.
We did, luckily. All right, so this is the continued public hearing for Split Rock Social doing business as Split Rock on 12 Parking Way that was continued from our last meeting. And Jim, I believe you have an update for us on this.
I don't know if the manager, proposed manager, Erin Herman, is signed in or not, but I heard today that the sewer commission, oh, I see she's there now.
Okay.
Sewer commission had not completed its review of the matter, so I don't know that she's ready to go forward. I would suggest that until everything is lined up, that the board not act on the application. But since Erin is now admitted to the meeting, perhaps she can give an update, and then the board can proceed to continue the hearing.
Hi, Erin.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yeah, we are good to go. We had our meeting with the sewer commission earlier and came to an agreement on EDU payments, and everything is squared away. So we are all set to move forward.
Okay, so this happened today, Erin?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I had heard that the commission did not meet today. Perhaps
No, if I can clarify what I understand happened.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Commission did meet today. They did have a conversation, but they didn't vote. They haven't voted anything yet. So they did discuss, but we were told by their staff assistant that they did not vote on this. They didn't have all their members present today.
Yeah, so we actually asked specifically for this meeting if we could, if we could, although one person wasn't there and it's not formally voted on, they did have 2 members that voted to send it forward, and that we could move forward with this process because they were, it's an informal yes, I guess, so.
Okay, I'm a little unsure of how we should proceed under these circumstances. Jim, do you have any thoughts?
if the sewer commission has not formally taken the action that was required, whether or not 2 members, support it or not, it still is not an official action of the sewer commission. And I know this has been before you a couple of times. I know Erin is anxious to cross this off the to-do list, but with licensing matters, I think it's best to wait until all approvals are clearly in order. And it didn't sound like to me that the commission voted, even though some of them may have expressed support of it. It was not an official vote of record.
Okay.
So your
Yeah,
next-
no, it seems like an informal vote, which probably will turn into a formal vote, but I do want to make sure we're doing this process correctly. Diane?
Yeah, I have a question, I think for Attorney Lamke, just in terms of, can we continue, because all of this obviously is time sensitive.
Yeah.
And, we don't make decisions unless we have every box checked off in terms of approvals from other boards. So I don't see that we could do that, but could we have some discussion, since it was properly posted and we came here, maybe have some discussion, some questions that we might have just from the application we've seen?
Could it be conditional on that missing vote, perhaps? Could we approve it on the condition that happens, and when that does happen, it can be approved? Just because, yeah, to your point, and thank you so much for bringing that up, it is time sensitive, and we've been through now 3 site plan reviews, 3 sewer meetings, and so I just don't, we're getting to the point where we really want to get this done, just for all intents and moving this forward. So I don't know if that's a possibility.
And Erin, we do understand your frustration, and we're really not trying to squash these dreams.
No, not at all.
We want to make
Yeah.
sure we're doing it correctly, but I mean, that is a fair question to ask, because I know that you've been really trying to get this done. We just want to make sure we're doing it correctly too.
Yes.
I understand the next meeting of the board is on the 15th. And, I think as much as everyone would like to try to accommodate the applicant, the cleaner process would be to wait until all the approvals, all the necessary information from the sewer commission, has been issued. And hopefully, that will all be done and over with, and you'll be able to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other members of the board have any comments or questions on this, or do we want to discuss any other variables of this, or do we want to postpone it?
We just, we need to make a motion to continue it, correct?
Yeah, it would need to be just because the hearing's been opened as of
Yeah.
last meeting, so we would need to continue it.
Okay, then I,
think Diane said that she wanted to have some discussion. I don't know if you want to do that now or
So I
wait. till the
see,
next meeting.
I saw Jean's hand and then Jack's. Jean,
I was just gonna suggest that if, let's say we were to have the full hearing today and there were still some open questions that needed follow-up, is there any way that we could vet those right now? So that way we can have just everything done by the 15th for a final decision, including if there's, and I guess this is a question for you, Chris and Attorney Lemke, apart from the sewer commission, is there anything else outstanding? Any other loose thread that needs to be tied up? Apart from, the information that we might want for our decision, is there any other board or commission that needs to weigh in?
I'm not aware of any other boards. Erin may be able to say whether or not she's completed the review by all necessary boards, but I'm not aware of anything else other than the sewer commission.
okay,
Yeah, we've gotten our site plan, and thank you, Jean, that was going to be something to ask as well, just to make sure, because it sounds like we're going to have to wait until 15th. So now that we have, again, 2 more weeks, I just don't want to come back and waste everyone's time, and certainly our time too, just to find out
that's
that there's
fine.
one more.
Yeah, we want to be respectful of your time, and if we can get some of the discussion done tonight, we absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
Jack, and then Diane, and then if we want to move forward on the broader concept discussion, we can.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we can't take action on it tonight. One of the basic principles is everything has to be signed and properly submitted. That being said, I'm sure there are many people at home, or there may be people at home who have an interest and may or may not have comments, pro and con. So I think it because it's properly posted and we can discuss it, that we should discuss it. And if there are some lingering issues, it'd be better to address them now than on the 15th, find them and then have to address them and delay it still further. So I'm
Okay.
all in favor of discussing it right now, but understanding we cannot vote on it.
Okay, sounds like we're in agreement on that. Diane?
That was exactly what I was
All
gonna
right.
say. And if you want to walk into starting some questions,
Yeah, so
I'll get in
Erin,
line for that too.
let's start again, Erin, because it sounds like we are amenable to discussing it, which I think is great. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the concept and the idea and the vision here to start? I know all of us have read it in the packet, but for the public to know, just give us a brief overview and description of your plan.
Yeah, and do you have the capability to allow me to share my screen? I think that might be helpful.
Tracy, is that possible? We can try.
Well, it's good to see Erin
Yeah.
came prepared. Thank you, Erin.
No, you're welcome. Happy to discuss.
I just want to add that I hope we can share the screen, because one of my comments was going to be, it was really hard to read the plans and understand what was going on in our packet, even because it was very small and the resolution was pretty light. So hopefully we can pull it up.
I
tonight.
just tried to, I think I might have been able to just change the screen sharing. Erin, try and see if it works.
I got it. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. So if you can you see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So you see here, this is our plan, our layout. This is the back of 12 Parking Way, the existing building here. We are going to be renting this area here all along the walkway and in the back, about 2,500 square feet. We have landscapers set up to put down crushed stone and some nice plantings, cobblestone paved way. We've got seating along here, and then we're going to have a fire pit or 2 right here connected to the natural gas line, bench seating, and some picnic tables. And then this area will be, says kids play area, but it's really going to be kind of like a little game area where there's kind of some outdoor games. This has two, but I can pull up the other plot plan that has more details. We'll have 3 toilets, 2 regular and 1 ADA that are actually connected to the sewer line. We're going to have running water connected to this container bar here, which is a converted shipping container, just like it sounds. We're going to have 8 beers on draft, and we're going to be splitting the container bar with our raw bar team. They will be having a full raw bar. Oysters are going to be the main highlight there. Capacity is set for 100 according to our site plan. After our site plan review, that's the capacity. There's going to be seating for 60. Our hours are 12 to about 8:30 or 9 Wednesday through Saturday, and then 12 to 5 on Sunday. So that is the basic gist of it. We're very excited. We put a lot of work into it. You can see here, this is our
Yes.
plan. Yeah, this is probably what you're saying was very small, I imagine, because there's a lot of detail. And after 3 site plan reviews, that's what happened. So this just has all of the details, that our engineer team worked on. We did a parking survey to see how our additional structure and business model would add to the traffic of downtown Cohasset. And it turns out it is not going to adversely affect the traffic patterns or parking situations. So we did confirm that that's a non-issue. We did a SWEP plan analysis to make sure that fire trucks could get back in case there was any emergency. We really covered off on all of our bases there and tried to go into detail on anything that we were asked about. So that is kind of the nutshell there. And actually, Carrie, do you mind adding Ryan Hilton in to promote him?
Sure. Yeah, let me try.
He might have something to add, I'm not sure. But that is the general idea behind our business model.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been asking for an oyster bar in town for a long time, Erin, so there's definitely a desire.
Yes,
this
well,
concept.
we're excited. Yeah, it's gonna be.
All right, so yeah, no, this is just off of those couple slides that she shared. Any members of the board have questions about these logistical issues or the site plan or the area? Diane.
Hi, just a couple questions in terms of the months of the year. How is this, what do you?
Oh, Diane, you just muted yourself.
Or the cat muted you.
No, that was my cat.
Okay. We love Diane's cat. Diane's cat is
She
an
thinks
honorary board member.
She doesn't miss a meeting. Just in terms of the months of the year that you'll be operational, and also whether it's covered at all, whether there's any overhang.
Yeah, so it's seasonal, so it'll be April through October, and we are planning on having a couple maybe small events around certain holidays, like during the Christmas stroll, for example. There will be opportunity to do some small events, but primarily it's all outside. There isn't much cover. We're going to have some umbrellas, mostly for sun, so that when it's raining, it's probably be not an ideal option for people. So
Okay, Chief Quigley. Oh, Diane, do you have a follow-up?
Just one other question, which is, I know when we looked at this site, and I purposely didn't go to the planning board hearings, but so you probably have answered this, but when we looked at this site previously for another applicant, one of the concerns was how small this area is, and that it abuts both an office building and then a front facing out into North Main Street business that also has some apartments at the top. And if I remember correctly, there was some parking that is owned by the business, I think, that faces out on North Main Street. So if you could just address sort of where is there going to be any change materially to those parties?
So first, to answer your question about setbacks, We are going to have our appropriate setbacks 15 feet away from the abutting business that's off South Main. As far as the parking goes, that's actually our landlord's lot. It's private parking. There's a sign, it's private. So any cars that are parked there, shouldn't be. It's not a public parking spot, and it's not owned by the abutting businesses that are off Main Street. That's actually our landlord's lot. So, and we did go over that with the parking analysis survey as well, just to make sure we weren't taking spaces away. So those are good questions. Yeah.
Okay. Diane, does that answer that for you?
Yes, thank you.
I just had a quick question, and then Corey, I see your hand, and Chief Quigley, I know you had your hand up. Is this, so people will be kind of serving themselves, like going up to get their oysters and beers, as opposed to having servers going around to the tables?
Yeah, so we're in the process of talking to a couple of POS systems, but the general idea is, yes, you'll go up, you will put your order in, you'll get your beer right there, and there's actually going to be a window on one side of the like on the left side of the container where you can go up and grab it. We're also, on busier days, going to have numbers where a food runner can run out the food and the orders. So that's kind of how it's going to flow.
Okay. Okay, Corey.
Yeah, one question, I guess this is for Attorney Lamke as well. So this is obviously going to be a seasonal thing. However, in the license, there's no seasonality to the license. So if they wanted to reopen for a Christmas party, there wouldn't be any restrictions on such a thing. Is that correct?
It's a seasonal license, so the seasonal license goes from April 1st to November 30th.
It is, okay, I was a little confused. I was
Yeah.
told that it was not a seasonal license, but it is a seasonal license. Exactly.
Yeah, the original application, there's been some iterations of the application. The original application did say that it was an annual license, but the narrative for it described it as a seasonal license. And so they did change and correct that it is a seasonal license. Seasonal licenses
Thank you.
Expire on November 30th. However, the licensing authority can extend them to through to January 15th.
Yeah.
So they may be able to get an extension subject to the board's approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
So that would be our direction if we were to go for any Christmas or holiday festivities.
Gotcha. And then a follow-up question, if you don't mind, both Aaron and Ryan, where are you on the process of getting the victualler license for food service?
Yeah, so that was something that we actually need to work on. It was something that was brought to our attention actually not too long ago. So we are going to work with Lauren and town to get that all taken care of. I think the way that it was explained to me was that if we get this passed today, there would be a consensus on whether or not we do need that. So if we do need it, we will get on it. Make sure.
And there is a possibility we could approve both of them too at our next meeting as an option too. We can double check on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we decide to vote in favor, they could be done at the same time.
Is that a separate application, Carrie, or would that be covered under our liquor license application?
It's separate, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, it's a separate application for common victular. The license that they applied for is called a general on-premise license, a GOP license. And the distinction between that type of a license and the others that you're normally familiar with, a restaurant license, is a general on-premise license, does not have to serve food. They can serve food if they want, but if they're gonna be the one selling and serving the food, they have to get a common victular license. So it was a little unclear, and Erin clarified it a little bit that someone else was going to be handling the food aspect of it.
Yes, so our partners, Denarius Trading Company, they are going to be handling the raw bar side of things. They actually are the ones that submitted for the Board of Health permits So if we do need the common victulars permit, I guess we'll just need some direction on if that's us or them that needs to fill that out, but we can definitely take care of that.
I wasn't, okay, so is that a thing, Jim, where you could have two separate applicants on the same location like that? I assumed it had to be the same applicant.
Well, for a general on-premise license, you know, that authorizes them to sell alcohol.
Right.
And someone else could have a common victular license for
Okay.
the same location. It's a little odd because usually one operator would be selling the alcohol and the food and be responsible for it all. There were some general on-premise places that, you know, do not sell food or serve food, but they
Mhm.
allow food to be brought in. People order out and bring and someone delivers the food there. But it comes down to who's going to be selling the food. If Erin's company is going to be selling the food, then she's going to need the common victular license to do that.
Got it. Okay. Jean, you've been waiting patiently, and then Diane again.
Well, one of my questions was answered about the victualer's license. So following up on what Attorney Lamke was saying, are people allowed to bring in food? Or is it
No.
only, okay, okay. So that's my first question.
If someone wanted to bring in, you know, something for their child, like in the back, that we're.
Okay, I just
gonna make
wasn't
us
sure
separate.
what the model was. The second question I have is music. Do you envision music playing?
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have, we're actually scheduled to get our entertainment license, and we're going in front of the planning board on the 16th to get that, and we've already filed for that. So our plan is to have some Sonos speakers, and then you know, just acoustic live music, and obviously we have the decibels all, you know, at a moderate sound.
Yeah, we submitted a special permit application already. I thought it went to this group, no?
No,
Yeah,
that's
so I think that's
Oh,
actually
it is for you
already,
guys?
Yeah.
it's already been advertised, and I believe it's on the agenda for the 15th or 16th next meeting as well, so.
Okay. Hi, Ryan. Welcome.
Hi, good to see everybody. Good question. so
Jean,
far.
do you have a follow-up for that?
No, I thought the entertainment license would come to us. That's why, as I'm tracking
I believe
all the
so.
outstanding.
Sorry, I thought it was going to the
No,
planning board.
that's okay. That's okay.
Not even sure anymore.
It's all right. We're making sure we do this correctly. Don't worry. Diane.
We're your licensed people. Just a question on the seasonality and whether, assuming they keep the seasonal license through November 30th, could they set up with a one-day liquor license on the space?
No,
For an event?
the ABCC takes the view that this location will have a licensed general on-premise license assigned to
Attached
it.
to it.
And so
Just-
another license cannot also be assigned to it, even if it's in the out of season period. You know, they can't do that. I recently had a check on that from the ABCC on another matter, and they, I forget what they called it, but that time when they're not open, you can't get a one license for it because that's another license, and you can't have
Separate.
one license
Two
assigned
licenses.
there. I would urge the applicants to be sure to quickly get their entertainment license into the Board of Selectmen so that it can hopefully be advertised for the 15th.
We already, we submitted that, and it should have been, or it should be advertised. I don't know.
I think it's being advertised this week, actually. Yeah, we
Yeah.
submitted the paperwork last week to Lauren Lind, and
Okay.
I think she's advertising this week for the 16th.
All right. Jean?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, my questions are answered, but my hand is up.
Okay. Other questions for the board? Jack?
Yeah, this is just a general observation. We need to figure out a way for all the licenses to come together in one presentation. It's very, very difficult for us to understand very difficult for somebody like the applicant who's trying to start a business if every time they turn around, there's another license, another requirement. So this isn't necessarily something for this particular hearing, but I think, the town could see if we could make this a little bit easier. It's tough enough to start a business. We want to give them clear guidance. So enough said.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work, Aaron.
Couldn't agree more, Jack.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
well, I
Jack.
thought you
That's-
would.
I'm
really
also
appreciate
trying,
that.
And you're not voters, so I'm not currying favor.
I'm also trying to see if there's any members of the public who would like to speak. This is a public hearing. Lauren Lind, I might have seen your hand up if you have a clarification on that. If any member of the public would like to come in and ask a question or send a message with a question, please do. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I was switching over from attendee to panelist, so I missed a few seconds of conversation. But I heard your conversation unfolding about the special permit filing, and I wanted to clarify. When we were going through the site plan review process with the planning board for this property most recently, we found sort of a caveat that people were previously unaware of, that the village business district in the table of use regulations does actually say that the planning board needs to issue a special permit for live or mechanical entertainment. So we then had this group re-advertised to come back to the planning board for that portion. This is sort of a unique situation in that we haven't had to do this before, though I think it was generally an oversight in years past, though we've been vetting with council and it does indeed show in the table of use regulations that it requires a planning board special permit solely for the village business district. So with that said, I think internally I will work with Chris Senior and council to make sure that the application is filed wherever it needs to be, because I know these things typically do come to the select board. So we need to just coordinate so that there's no contrasting language in those sort of in the process. So I will work with Chris Senior and Carolyn Murray as well as Jim Lamke as necessary to make sure that this is all coordinated.
Thank you for clarifying that, Lauren. That's helpful. Jim, I'm going to go to you first, and then Chief Quigley, you're up.
Lauren may have already addressed the point, but a separate entertainment license is issued by the Board of Selectmen. So the fact that the planning board also has to issue a special permit doesn't obviate the need for the applicant to apply for an entertainment license from the selectmen.
And again, typically we want the other boards to issue theirs first and we'd be the last.
So then we need to do it.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, sorry. So just to clarify, then do we need to then submit another application for selectmen group then, or am I misunderstanding?
That would be correct. Under the statute, the selectmen issue an entertainment license. The planning board apparently issues a special permit, which is not the entertainment license per se, but is an approval from a land use planning perspective that they're assuming that they approve it, that from a land use perspective, they're approving entertainment there. But you have to submit an entertainment license to the selectmen application. And I suggest you do that as soon as possible, like tonight or tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
No, you're asking the right questions, Aaron. I know this is complicated and somewhat frustrating. Aaron's frozen a little bit.
We lost her. Point taken,
Okay.
though. I think we'll get right on that.
Okay.
We just had her nicely tied up. in
Aaron, you
red
were
tape
frozen a
before she
little bit,
could-
but Ryan had your back. Okay.
That was her brain freezing over another permit. She wasn't sure how to take that.
Chief Quigley.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Chief.
You guys sort of worked through some of the questions that I had. And Lauren answered the question about the special permit with planning, because that's something we've experienced in the past with, I think, Bia and the Red Lion Inn.
Right.
So you do have to get permission from planning, a permit from planning, then come before the select board for approval on an entertainment license. It would probably be advantageous for you guys to reach out to our department, the police department, and loop us in on all of this. Because we're going to be part of the process, but I'm learning some of this stuff tonight. And then the other question I had was about the parking study that you guys had done. Can you email that to me, and who did it? Who did that parking study?
Yeah, so there was actually information that the town had allowed us to use that was a full-blown parking study done in, I think, 2016, I believe, or 14, I can't remember. The planning board allowed us to use that, and we supplemented it with our own parking study analysis by BSC Group, who went in and put together a full document outlining his findings. So I can absolutely send that to you. That's not a problem.
Yeah, please send that over so we can take a peek at it. And I think it's a great idea. It's a great concept, and it'll help to revitalize the village. But we just need to understand the operation and see where we're going with this.
Sure, we'll reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Diane was next and then Corey.
Yeah, just on, I think obviously planning board and special permit and the sewer, those are the permits that we need in order to make the appropriate decision on our liquor license. So just to give you, I think, a little bit of a breath about the entertainment license, like you don't need that to move forward. You don't need that even day one of operations, as much as it would be nice. So I wouldn't panic about that. The others absolutely have to be on our list of things, but that can be additive after you have the full approval. So
Right.
don't panic about it. It does have to be posted publicly. So if it's not going to make the 2-week window because you don't do it tomorrow, I think that can wait. And we certainly, that is usually something that comes after the fact from a businesses. So
That's a good
Okay.
point.
correct
Diane.
me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding.
Just to be clear, that entertainment license, is that for mechanical and live music? For both? Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it encompasses all those.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Corey, did you have your hand up? No, okay.
Good, thanks.
Jean?
Yeah, the only thing that I would ask the applicants to be prepared about is, and Diane alluded to this earlier, is that there are some apartments that are right behind there. I think it is a common and best practice, particularly within the Cohasset Village, to introduce yourselves to the neighbors and, try to have that relationship, including sharing contact information if any issues arise, to make sure that you can sort of get ahead of that as need be, and maybe address some things if need be, to try to, again, head off any issues, just from what I've seen over the years.
Yeah, 100%. We actually did that a couple months ago, and yeah, it was good dog, and yeah, 100% agree. I mean, we're coming into an area, we want to be good neighbors and respect everyone. So yeah.
That makes me happy in terms of how I view your application, that you've done it without needing to be asked.
Well, we're
Yeah,
trying to.
we've actually taken a few suggestions from the abutters as well.
Oh,
One
good.
of which was a walkway behind the container bar, behind the fence that they can access from South Main, and we've incorporated that into the plans.
That's
as
a
well.
good idea. Okay. No, Aaron and Ryan, you're both being really conscientious, and I know that this can be frustrating, but thank you for doing all of these things. Corey?
We're getting there.
Yeah, just one other question. Do we have any other, I guess this is for Attorney Lamke or Mr. Senior. Do we have any other GOP licenses that has this board licensed any other GOP licenses for establishments that didn't serve food? Because I know it's not part of the requirement, but since we're talking about kind of separating this, I guess there is a possibility that an approval of a location that doesn't serve food, and if we have any precedent for that, or if that's something we should keep in the back of our heads.
I'm not aware whether you have or have not had a GOP license. Perhaps I don't want to put the chief on the spot, but he might know of a place that basically is a tavern or a bar and doesn't serve food. Most of the places that I know from the village and other parts of Cohasset, they serve food, but I don't know if there's another place that does not serve food.
The GOPs, no, I think that's it, but we have a club license, the Legion,
Mhm.
doesn't really serve food. It's like chips and stuff.
Yeah,
but-
popcorn counts.
Yeah, I mean, once in a while they have a lobster roll sneaks in the back door,
Right.
but that's about it.
And again, there are some towns in Massachusetts that require you to order food too if you're getting served alcohol. I know towns like Wellesley do that. That's not something we've made a decision on ever, but the food part is related, so it is a discussion that's worth having. All right. Any further questions before I believe we need to vote to continue this continued hearing? But it sounds like Aaron and Ryan that a lot of the general questions about other stuff have been answered tonight and that we are mostly good to move forward as long as we get all the ducks in a row.
Yep, this has been really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any final questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing until our next meeting.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second? Okay, roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple
Diane Kennedy, I.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, the hearing is continued. Aaron and Ryan, hang in there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye.
The next thing that we have on the agenda is Salty Days. Speaking of the common victualler license, Salty Days is back. As you know, we already approved their other license last meeting. Let's see if they're in the room here. Tracy, if you see Salty Days in the attendees, I'm trying to
I
look.
do not see them in attendance.
If you are here from Salty Days on an account we might not recognize, could you raise your hand? We're trying the Zoom complications, everyone. We're trying to make sure everyone feels heard. So it doesn't look like I'm seeing any hands raised. Would we be okay moving forward if Salty Days is not here? Jim, any advice on this?
Yeah, in the event that you have questions, want to hear what the proposal is for the common victular, you could put it off to your next meeting. Perhaps they weren't aware that they should be here at the hearing to answer any questions. If it was a renewal of a common vic license, it'd be
Right.
different. But this is a new common vic license, and the board or members of the public may have some questions.
Diane?
I was late at that last meeting, so I didn't hear it, but did they present sort of the description of food being served,
They
et cetera? In
did,
which
yeah.
case-
I was gonna say, I mean, they were wonderful last meeting and incredibly conscientious and seemed to have their plan down, as best as I can imagine. I don't think they would have been missing this meeting. So it might have been a miscommunication if they didn't know they were supposed to be here. Based on their performance last meeting, I thought they seemed very trustworthy and had their act together. Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure legality wise, but so Jim, Mr. Lampe, please clarify. But based on what they told us yesterday, I don't have any questions about their business model, about how they're going to operate. They described to us how many tables they were going to have. They described to us that they'd have a takeout area for uncooked product as well. They talked about their experience in Hingham, their customer base. We learned a lot about their business model. I'm not quite sure I have any further questions when it comes to serving food. So I'm personally comfortable moving forward with this license as long as it's deemed appropriate by council, that if they're not present, it still would be an appropriate act.
You can certainly proceed if you have enough information. The only question would be the hours, but you could make the hours to match.
We specified the hours with the liquor license, so I figured that's probably hand in hand.
Again, we went through, I think, the biggest discussion points last week. I agree with you, Corey. I mean, we approved the license from last week and they talked a lot about the food and seafood and sushi.
Hey, Carrie, I'm sorry to jump in.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Jean.
It sounds like you guys are gonna move forward, so I'm gonna recuse myself if.
Okay. No, thank you, Jean. Yes. Diane?
I read their application, obviously, and I'm comfortable moving forward. I would never move forward if it were a liquor license. But I think that's the higher bar to meet, and I'm comfortable voting on this.
All right, I agree. So,
I agree.
all right, we're all in agreement. I would like to entertain a motion then to approve the common victular license for Salty Days.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey,
Sorry, my internet's been tweaking a little bit. No, Corey Evans, aye. Sorry about that.
Diane
fine.
Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Okay, congrats to Salty Days. We can inform them that this got approved. All right, moving on to next door to Salty Days. The Red Lion would like to apply for an extension of hours request. Let's get them in the room. If you are here from Red Lion, raise your hand. Trying to get people in. Tracy, do we see anyone from Red Lion?
I do not see anybody from the Red Lion.
Okay.
I'm gonna recuse again, Carrie, while.
Okay, we might not even be.
what's going on with the Red
This
Lion.
is something I would not be comfortable voting on without them being here. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but I would like to hear from them before we would take a vote on this.
Yeah, I don't think we can vote. I also looked through the packet and I didn't see any advanced discussion about what hours they were requesting.
I believe they wanted one night until possibly 2 a.m. Jack. I think maybe New Year's Eve.
It wasn't in the packet, so my general rule is if it isn't in the packet and we don't have a chance to look at it, then we probably shouldn't be voting.
Well, again,
on it.
I wouldn't be comfortable voting without them being here at the meeting anyway. So, Jim?
They did submit through the town clerk a sheet with various dates and where they want the extension of the hours for the barn or for the cave. And the only reason I mentioned, I agree with you, is that they're not here on something that is involved as this, that you should have them here to explain it and answer any questions. But they do, the next event that an extension of the hours was requested for is Sunday, February 13th, which is before your next meeting. I do note that it's listed on this as an extension of the hours for the cave, which is the lower level, as I recall.
It's like the basement room that they sometimes have after parties.
Right. And there's limited capacity there, and it is, not likely to generate sound that's going to go outside the building. So, you can certainly not act on it, but I just wanted to point that out to you that that one will be before your next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, no, I said New Year's Eve. I think I meant like a Valentine's Day wedding or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there is a New Year's Eve one where they want to, for this New Year's Eve, they're really getting an advance.
I was gonna say, I thought I read a New Year's Eve thing in the packet too, or maybe I hallucinated that. Okay.
Yeah, and the problem or an issue with that one, because it says they want to stay open to 2:15 and they can't stay open.
Right, it's like 2 a.m. is the hard stop in the whole state, right? I mean, I would love if Cohasset could sometimes overrule Massachusetts, but we can't. I mean, it's not like them to not be here. I'm not sure what's going on. with them not attending tonight. Diane, I think I saw your hand and then Corey.
So I put my hand up initially to ask the question of, because I remember reading through the different dates, and as you know, I had a question about the 2 a.m. But because so given that they're seeking permission, and this is a process we asked them to do, and I think they're trying to get all their, wedding timings out ahead of time. And I agree, I'm not comfortable voting on the whole slate, if you will, but I do think, given that one of them is in a week and before our next meeting, I would be comfortable voting on that for an extension of the hours to the cave.
Just the one?
Just that one, just because we're not gonna have an opportunity to address that before they have that need. And then at our next meeting, deal with the other dates and talk through what they involve and what the impact is.
Yeah, I think that's a valid suggestion. Corey?
I just, and I'm not sure if this is what the 13th is for, but the 13th, I think, is the Super Bowl. So this may be like a Super Bowl after party. I can't say I'm feeling as charitable on this. This is not a new organization to our town. This is also a fairly large, it's not like a little mom and pop place where they might have overlooked. We've gone through this process before. I'm not feeling like, and I don't love the precedent of us saying, well, we'll do it this time, but maybe not next time. And the cave, I think, is open pretty late as it is. So I can't say I would be comfortable with moving forward without them being here. They should know kind of what this process is at this point.
I mean, it could be a wedding, actually. I'm not sure if it even is a Super Bowl event. I'm trying to double check.
If they were here, we could ask them that question.
Diane?
And fair enough, absolutely. I'm not gonna advocate. I just want to make sure that it's their mistake not being here and not ours.
I do too. That was what I was thinking about as well.
Because they need to be told, people need to be invited to the meeting.
I think I'm more suspicious that Salty Days wasn't here too, and they're also very conscientious. So I'm a little bit worried that there might have been miscommunications about coming to the meeting tonight. And I agree with Diane. I don't want to punish them if they didn't know to not be here. Jack?
Yeah, I think Corey has a very good point. I'm a little concerned when you have a liquor license, you're serving liquor, it requires a certain amount of responsibility, for lack of a better word. I'm also concerned by, it looks like, with the number of requests, that this license, we should always remember that when these liquor licenses were first issued, there was a great debate among people in the village about whether Cohasset wanted to have late night drinking. Now, I know people who like to party a lot, like to have the late night drinking, and I get that. But the village did kind of make a decision that we didn't want that. And that's what they bought when they bought all this. And now I'm looking at a number of Sundays where they're really basically opening till 1 a.m. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 times. And that really is kind of not an exception created by an occasional event. That seems like a pattern. They're basically open for that. And I think if they're going to make that request, we're de facto granting them a different liquor license than the town had originally understood. So I think that's an issue we might want to discuss with the neighbors and the people who are concerned about the quality of the village.
All right. I think that all of these are valid points. I think it's really hard to not have them here. But again, I'm a little concerned that they might not have known they had to be here, and that's our fault. So, but it does feel like we have a 2-2 vote right now.
Well, why don't we just, I mean, I will move that we grant the extension of hours to, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't pull the document up, till 1 a.m. for February 13th for the cave at the Red Lion Inn property.
Okay, do we have a
I would second that, although if I would probably be opposed to the whole concept, but it is possible that there should have been a mistake, and I don't want to inadvertently
Okay.
do that. So I would second that.
All right. Thank you, Jack. and Thanks for clarifying. So we have a motion and a second. So roll call vote just for this one date for the extension of hours. Jack, that's an aye, I believe. Okay. Corey. Corey's a
Sorry,
little,
I'm considering.
I didn't know if you were frozen or not. I was just checking.
No. Yeah, I think my colleagues make some valid points here. I'll say aye as well. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right. Let's make sure that they know they have to be here to discuss all the rest of the dates for the rest of the year to get on a next agenda. We can double check that.
And I have to say that this board is truly showing deliberative and a judicious decision.
Thank you, Jack. We're trying again. This is Zoom land is hard sometimes. All right. Moving on to our hopefully what'll be less controversial, our Rotary Club's annual road race by the sea, scheduled for April 3rd, I believe.
Motion to approve.
Hold on, Jack. Hold on. I see Linda coming in. Hi, Linda.
Thanks a lot, Jack.
You're welcome.
Um,
And Linda, you can second it as well.
Thank you for being here, Linda.
I want the floor. We haven't been here in 2 years. So excited to.
I know it's
have
so
this
exciting to have events come back.
So just so everyone knows, I'm Linda Fector, 15 Westgate Lane. I'm here on behalf of Cohasset Rotary Club. I am the race director for the road race by the sea. This will be the 45th-ish, just trying to decide if like last year counted in terms of it's the 45th in person.
Yep.
We are, for those that don't know, Rotary is a completely service-oriented organization. We are all volunteers. Any net proceeds from this event go right back to the causes that Rotary supports. Officially, we're not a town event, but I still think of the Cohasset Road Race as an event that totally benefits the town of Cohasset. So this year it is on Sunday, April 3rd, pending approval. There is a race component, and that starts on the common at 1. It has always started at 1 in deference to the churches and the worship on Sunday, and it just stuck. It just kind of works it works well. We expect maybe 800 people. We really don't know how many to expect this year. It does seem like people are excited. We only opened registration yesterday. We also have a walk component. It does not start at the common. It's at Wilcott. It starts there. It's at 10 a.m. and it's usually just maybe 100, 150 people. Again, we're not really sure what to expect, but it's a much smaller event. And people walk on the sidewalks for that. Let's see. What else can I tell you? We local businesses are already stepping up. We have so many wonderful people that are sponsoring the race, and I'm kind of excited about all the new venues that are opening, and hopefully,
Yes. Hopefully, we'll be open maybe by then.
I was
Something.
kind of hoping for that, so I hope everybody gets their approvals. Yeah, and so I don't know what else. So you guys can ask me questions. We raise money. That's what we do. Not sure what to expect if we raise $15,000. It all depends on how many sponsors we get and how many participants we get. But again, all the proceeds from our $35 fee for running go back into the community and support Rotary causes.
And
So-
you're a wonderful organization. We always get we hear such great feedback about this event every year. And I know people missed it the past couple of years. So it's really refreshing to see you back.
Thank you. And we have worked, we work very close with Chief Quigley and fire and public, the town manager and the health department. So it does feel like everybody supports us. So we're very grateful for that.
Any other questions for Linda? I know there's nothing really out of the ordinary here in terms of how this has been run in past years. It's something that the town's fairly used to and comfortable with, I think. Corey.
What color are the shirts this year, Linda?
Important question.
Like a
Most
marathon
important thing.
jacket question. I'm used to those.
It's true.
I don't, Corey, what color would you like the shirts to be? Because
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
it's
wait.
usually like a last minute decision with me. I draw the design, like I make stick figures and stuff, and then we send it to Google Graphics and they take my little stick figures and they make it into something pretty. But, you know, message me if you feel like there's something you
Corey.
want.
I'll get them all lined up and I'll see what colors are missing. It's getting kind of hard. The color wheel only goes around so many times, and
Well,
you
and
kinda
this year
run
it's
out.
like it could be a supply chain thing. We might be
That's
using,
Right, it might be
everybody might have a
white.
different color, not really sure.
I need to clarify, I need to clarify that my motion to approve is not dependent upon you giving me the right color.
It
Just
might
so
be.
It wouldn't be the first time, so it's fine.
Oh.
If there's no other further questions, Jack can make his motion again.
Motion to approve, motion to
Okay.
approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We have a second from Jean. A roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey
Green,
Evans, aye.
Jean
Orange,
Knight,
orange.
Forgot where I was in line. Diane Kennedy, happily aye.
Harry Thompson, aye. We are so excited to approve this, Linda, and let us know how else we
Very
can
much,
help
you
you
guys.
publicize it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, bye, guys.
thank
Bye.
you,
should-
Linda.
It should be said that even though this is a very much of a community or event as possible, Linda is she's a rock star.
She
And
is.
what she does for this town and Rotary is pretty special.
She is.
So
Okay.
she might not have heard that, but that's okay.
Moving on, I see Sarah and Mark coming in the room. Our last event under this agenda item is a new event, the South Shore Eco Fest. Some of you I know are familiar with the Just One Bag campaign. This is proposed for a date of April 29th. And Marisa, Sarah, welcome. Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about this. I know that it's a new event and I know Chief Quigley has some thoughts on this too. Just give us an overview for everyone watching.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And thank you for having us. I think, Marissa, are you able to share? We just literally have two quick slides.
Everyone should be able to share.
Yeah, hopefully that will work. But yeah, we're really excited. This has been a long time in the kind of like dreaming, and it's nice to finally have it coming to fruition a bit. So really excited to present our plan for the first ever Just One Bag South Shore Eco Fest, which having approval, we'd love to host on Cohasset Common on April the 29th from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. We do have a rain date proposed for the following Friday for May the 5th. And we are just, our goal is to support and promote the local sustainable businesses, organizations and nonprofits across the South Shore with a real kind of plan to show and educate and inform that sustainable living is not about missing out. It's not about being a martyr to the planet. It's actually pretty fun. It's pretty fulfilling, and that can be quite easy. And as we've seen with the planet right now, it's pretty urgent and what we need. And with Cohasset ramping up their priorities for climate resiliency and making it a real priority that you guys have done, and with Sandy Beach being the inspiration for our Just One Bag global campaign, we thought Cohasset would be the perfect place for us to host the very first Eco Fest. So we hope you guys agree. The plan is that we will have stalls from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So similar to the farmers market, but we'll have stalls from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. set up from 12:30 until 2, and then they'll clear up from 6 to 6:30. So that'll be people like Zero Refills that have just opened on the 3A. You'll have a stall and be able to sell some of her zero waste products. It'll also hopefully be people like Fifield Bikes, who last summer did some demonstrations across the town to show how they could work. We're planning on having lots of family activities and contests. So we're going to reach out to the local schools and encourage them and their students to submit art contest entries around Earth Day themes, sculptures that maybe they've made out of litter picking, finds, and we'll host eco bingo and scavenger hunts as well to encourage people along. So have lots of competitions. And we're going to partner this year with Untold Brewing. They're going to host a beer garden from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Untold, as many of you know, are a certainly one of my favorite little treasures of the South Shore that we've discovered. And not only do they make great beer, they also have worked really hard over the last few years to reduce their impact as they do their business. So they've become so much more sustainable, be it their water usage, use of their shrink wrap plastic, just the way that they recycle everything that they use. So they are great. And they've also done a variety of these beer gardens throughout the last 12 to 18 months across the South Shore. They've done them in Hingham and Derby Street. So they have a really slick operation for beer gardens. They have perimeter fencing. They have managers who check the IDs and do the wristbands. They've got all the trash receptacles sorted, and they are very quick at setting up and taking down and have it all nailed down. So they'll abide by all the regulations required. And then we'll have a small PA sound system and stage to have live music with local youth groups. We'll use the sound system to announce competition winners, and also have some local bands as well. So that's the run through. And then Marissa's got a map.
Yeah, and so just to kind of walk through the proposed locations where we want to hold South Shore Eco Fest. So similar to the farmers market setup, we're hoping to have the vendor stalls along the Cohasset Common. And then just on the tip of the common here on that abuts Highland Avenue is where we were thinking of having the Untold Beer Garden. And then with the stage kind of in between the two of those. And then the food trucks, similar to how it's also set up at the farmers market, having those along the William B. Long Jr. stretch with road closures on Highland Avenue at the bottom, and then up the top. And the Highland Avenue road closure proposal is really for the 5-field bikes that Sarah had mentioned. Life on the Rocks had done a demo with them last July as well. And so this would just add to the safety of adults 18 and over being able to test ride some of the electric bikes.
All right. I got to give you points for your creativity in this event. I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm. I love your excitement. It's a really interesting concept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Chief Quigley, I think you had some questions about this too, or some comments about this as you've been reviewing the plan.
Yeah, so we this is totally doable. It's a cool event. We just have to fine tune things a little bit. And Sarah's been working with the traffic safety folks at my office, and they're working. We just need a written plan how this is going to work out. So we need a comprehensive traffic and parking plan, as well as a security plan for any liquor. So totally doable. And I gave them a couple deadlines.
All right.
They've been working every day with Greg Lawrence, Officer Lawrence, to get this done. So I'm pretty comfortable with the concept. And we just need to fine tune things, and the devil is in the details.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like once we get some logistical stuff worked out, this has a strong possibility of being approved. Diane.
Yeah, so the conversation we had at the conversation we had at the last events committee was that Chief Quigley and the deputy superintendent for the fire, they approved everything in concept, and was forward to the select board today to approve the date. And then we have the deadline of the 15th of February for the traffic plan, the 1st of March for the liquor, and then the 7th of March for the general operations plan. We have the liquor. I mean, Untold will be applying for the liquor permit themselves, and they'll be doing it all in one day. They can set it up and take it all down in one day. And they've given us a very detailed description of how they do that. So I can, and that's Chief Quigley. But yeah, so it's just that we needed to kind of start promoting this if we're going to make it.
Okay, so you're asking us to maybe put a hold on the date, like a tentative date approval type vote?
If you could, I'm sorry to jump in.
Go ahead, Chief.
Just like I'm totally fine with this, and I have total faith in Sarah and Marissa. It can be approved, but contingent upon the traffic and parking approval of the traffic and parking plan by the police department, and the liquor security plan by the police department.
Okay, Diane, and then Jean.
Yeah, so I'm bringing us down a little bit, but also for if you were here for the earlier conversation about the oyster and beer garden, there's kind of like an order to operations, and typically before we approve a date, we get the application and we it's been through the event committee, so they look at it and they will get back to you to say, you're ready to go to the select board now for approval of this event, which will include also, in this case, an entertainment license, which we'll need, of the liquor license, which you mentioned, Untold would be on top of. So I feel like it's semi premature, but again, I understand. I ran the arts festival for 12 years on the Common, so I know all the logistics and all the timing that it takes to make this stuff happen. So conditionally, I would be comfortable moving forward as well. But I also want to say that I question the date, and just because we usually have some kind of an Earth Day program with our with Rotary actually participates, but through the Open Space and Rec Commission and their Earth Day activities. So I don't know if you've looped them in and whether how that might play out.
Yeah, I actually sit on the Open Spaces Committee.
I thought so, yeah.
I sit on the Open Spaces Committee, and so the Earth Day planning is actually going to be the weekend before. It's going to be the 23rd. At least that's what I think Peter's bringing to the board on the 15th.
Okay.
And I think there was talk of maybe trying to do like an Arbor Day tie-in on the 29th. So that definitely, we particularly wanted to do EcoFest around Earth Month, but certainly wanted to stay away from the town litter pick. That's the traditional day, whatever the Saturday after Earth Day is.
Yeah, the town cleanup that's usually great. Okay.
That Saturday after Earth Day always falls in spring break.
Yep.
So we really wanted to do it when families were going to be around, and we wanted to avoid all the sports that would be starting straight after spring break. So that was kind of why we chose the Friday. And yeah, so it's purposely done differently to the town event, and it's going to be broadened out to the whole of the South Shore. We can promote it. We've said to Peter, as Marissa says, she sits on Open Spaces and I advise to it, as I'm not a US citizen, but I sit on all the meetings. And yeah, so we are happy to promote and help support the Earth Day cleanup as much as we can do in the promotions of everything else that we do.
Okay, thank you. It's good that you've kind of coordinated all this, because you're right, they all fit together in theory. Jean and then Corey.
Well, thank you, Sarah and Marissa. I think that it's great that we have the Common having some new uses, including right off the heels of our resiliency forum as well. And so I think that it would be great to also include the Harbor Committee that was a part of that. They just had some awesome presentations. And I think that if we get those out and spotlighted during this project, that would be great too, because I do think that more of Cohasset needs to obtain the information that they've been presenting on resiliency as maybe a part of this EcoFest. So like Diane, I would be comfortable with a conditional approval, appreciating we're getting close to the date of when you need to market and approve for what it's worth.
Okay, thank you. And absolutely, I mean, we don't, and I know Peter's doing some tables at the Earth Day on the Saturday before. So if the Harbour planning are going to be there, the Harbour planning are going to be there, great. If they would like a table, or if you guys, the select board, would like a table to talk about your priority of a resiliency, or if there's a climate summit that we can help at. I mean, I say this whether you approve it or not. We are like, so I know Alternative Energy Committee are going to have a stall. I think Hingham Light Plant, they're going to have one, hopefully Hingham Net Zero. So we've got private businesses, but we've also got local organizations that are basically want to communicate what they're doing to help the residents understand what the towns are doing to make them more resilient and to make them help fight climate change in the first place.
I love how inclusive and collaborative you're making this sound. It's a great community-wide idea. Corey.
Yeah, guys, I'm really excited that you've decided to try to bring this energy to our Common. I mean, we have just the energy that our Alternative Energy Committee, our Harbor Committee, and I think it's common knowledge in this town, like we are on the front lines of this. Literally our roads and our infrastructure, we're on the front lines. We also have a community that is engaged and cares about this stuff. So it's exciting to see all this kind of come together. One tweak, and I join my colleagues, I'm comfortable with the event permit, of course. The one-day liquor license you said is mentioned through Untold. So I'd kind of like to at least conceptually kind of put that in a box to the side and just say, basically, if we approve your permit and something happens with Untold, are you okay going forward without a beer garden or figuring something else out, maybe partnering with someone in town to do something in a different location. I just want to be sure you're okay with that, because we can approve, I'm comfortable approving the permit, but the liquor license will be kind of a separate little process. So if that's okay with you and you understand that, then I can't wait to see this happen.
Yeah, I think, Marissa, I think you agree, nodding. I think, yeah, that's fine. We've kind of said always, like, our goal is to support and promote the local sustainable businesses and organizations. We're so excited to be partnering with Untold because of everything that they bring. And I think they'll hugely help get people out of their winter hibernation at the end of April, assuming we don't have rain or snow. And as a Brit, snow in April kind of baffles me. So yeah, but if something did happen with them, then we would be happy to kind of keep going and make sure we support the local businesses.
Okay. And Untold is a great local business too, so I'm sure they'll have their act together.
Yeah, they have a really good pack. They can just submit.
Yeah.
So what's that?
All right, Jack.
No, I think it's a good use of a common. I think we have a real resource in the common. I share Corey's a little concern about the alcohol. I'm not sure that we have to have everything. Also has to have a pretty heavy drinking during the day component. I mean, we do have an issue. We have safe harbor, and I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I think we should, as we go forward with more and more events on the common, keep that in there. But I do think the selectmen should have a table. We should call it the hot air table, by the way.
All right. On that note, it's Jack's comedy hour tonight, but I think it seems like we're prepared to move forward with a motion.
Yeah, I'd
So
move.
moved.
Hold on, Jack. Let's
I will
clarify.
let Corey take it. Corey, you go ahead.
Just to clarify, we're tentatively approving this as long as everything else goes well logistically, like the chief said.
Motion, yeah, I would move to approve it conditional on
Yep.
the traffic and parking plan and the security plan for the liquor to be done in coordination with our police. And
Okay.
we will address the liquor license later.
Right. Do you want to actually, I'm just saying, why don't we not put that in there, because we have to deal with it later. I don't want them to not get this and then have some sort of issue with the event license. Does that make sense?
Motion to approve, okay, so I withdraw and maybe motion to approve based on the traffic and parking plan, which I think will still need to be. And then we'll just deal with the liquor later.
All right. Do we have
And
a second?
entertainment.
All right.
And food permits, yeah.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? All right. Roll call vote, Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Jeannie Lee Dippledy.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Terry Thompson, aye. Thank you, ladies. This is really exciting.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're
All
very
right. Good
excited.
luck with the rest of the planning.
Thank you. And we'll see you again soon with some plans.
All right. Woo.
you.
All right. That was a long list of licenses and
Yeah.
permits, everyone. Good job.
Thank you.
And Jim, thank you so much for all of your advice.
Okay, thank you all
We'll
very much.
see you next time, Jim. You
I'll
can't get
see you
out
in
of
a
coming to
couple
our
of weeks.
meetings.
Okay, take
All
care.
right.
Be well.
You
All
too, Jim. All right, moving on to another important agenda item, our FY22 budget update. Dawn, I believe, is headed on in the room. And Paula. Paula, I think I see you too. All right. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I will go through our year-to-date budget through December 31st, and I'm going to share my screen, which looks like you can.
You should be able to.
All right, so look at the general fund first. Overall, all three funds are in good shape through 12/31. General fund revenues, we've collected 51.6% of our budget. Within property taxes, we've collected about 129,000 of tax liens, which again, as I've probably mentioned numerous times, is an unbudgeted revenue. Basically prior year taxes that weren't collected are liened, and then as they're paid, it comes in as essentially a surplus. The local receipts were at about 44.2%. And a big driver within our local receipts is motor vehicle excise tax. That commitment for FY22 was just received. and posted. So we have not really seen any receipts coming in for FY22 motor vehicle excise. So to be at 44.2% already of our local receipts, we're really in good shape. A couple items I did note in my memo were meals and rooms taxes really bounced back from the prior 2 years. We're already at almost 100% in just the 2 quarters. Meals tax is really the big bulk of that, but that's really good to see from a budget standpoint, but also the community seeing that people are really going back out and eating at our restaurants and takeout and things like that are driving that. And another area to note is license and permits, and we're at about 70% collected. And a few things there. We have some projects going on in town that are driving increased permit revenue, but also John Hallen, our building commissioner, has also instituted essentially an affidavit process. So at the end of a building project, whether it's adding a garage or a tear down and rebuild, basically he's doing a final cost comparison from the initial permit pulled to the actual cost paid, and recouping any money that is owed. So those are the 2 big guys that are driving that. Year over year, we're about 16.7% up from FY21, about 217,000. And again, the same 2 items I just mentioned, the meals and rooms and license and permits. The meals and rooms is up about 62% or 59,000. And the license and permits is up almost 62% or 167,000. On the expense side, we're at 49.2% of the budget expended. And looking through all the departments, I haven't seen anything significant out of the ordinary. And really 49.2% of the overall is really because we have some big insurance payments, our pension that are paid earlier in the year. So I think we're really doing well, and we continue to monitor that monthly. So I'll stop there for any questions before I move on to water.
All right, thank you, Don. Good update. Any questions for Don from the board?
Not
okay, you can move on.
All right. So water continuing to do well. 55.3% of the budget collected. Big driver here is user charges and our system development fee. Our user charges at 64.2%, and the system development or the connection fees at a whopping 363%. We've had a few new connections, and the 390 CJC receipt is also in there as of 12/31. We are down about 1% year over year, about 187,000. And really that's how the utilities work. It's based on water usage. We had a really high usage last year, and then that coupled with a rainy summer and fall, our actual use year over year is down. But like I just mentioned, our user charges received compared to budget, we're actually exceeding expectations because we did budget conservatively for fiscal 22. And then on the expenditure side, no issues noted. We are about, I can't see, 65.9% spent. Corey, I see a question from you.
Yep, go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, well, for the water, I know this was ahead and they've changed it, so I've lost track, but didn't they reclassify the capital recovery charge to something else, or was that dropped from?
No, that is a good point, and I will change that on my reports. They did change the name to the base fee.
Service charge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I will update that. Thank you for noting that.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Other questions?
Questions?
Hey,
We'll move
John.
on to sewer.
Do we expect any similar large water charges, hookup charges, now that 390 CJC is connected? Was that sort of the big one looming in the background? Is there more anticipated revenue from 390, or is that pretty much it?
No, I believe that's a full payment on the 390 project.
Okay.
And then on the sewer side of things, we're at 48.5% collected. Big driver of that is user charges. We're at about 52%. And then connection fees, again, same thing. We've had a lot of connections, a partial payment. I actually don't believe that 390 has started paying their fee yet. So that's still waiting to come, but number of connections on the sewer side, we are down similar to water, a little bit more on the sewer side, about 12.5%, partly due to a decrease in water usage since our bills are based on water. But then also it's really just a factor of our grinder pump fees last year, which we're not collecting anymore and we're not billing for because the grinder pump release has been done back to the residents. And then also a timing of a betterment payment that was made last year and not this year. So again, the revenue being down 12.5% really isn't alarming. Those two couple items right there really explain why it is down. And then on the expenditure side, we're still at we're at 44.7% of our general expenses paid to date.
Okay.
No real issues noted within the sewer either. So be happy to take any questions.
Diane.
Just a question on that budgeted sewer betterment. Was that based off of, I think you were alluding to this, that was based off of last year's actuals that we budgeted 657? And
no, so the year-over-year collection is what I was noting for the reason of the decrease. So last year, early in the year, so our betterments aren't billed until the third and fourth quarters. So we had a payment, I think it was a payoff or a larger payment made in the first half of last year where we're not seeing that similar payment this year. You'll see that betterments to date have only been $10,000 collected, where I think last year we had I think it was a $65,000 payment made in the first half of the year.
And okay, but you anticipate that we'll get close to that budgeted amount, 657
Absolutely.
by the end of the fiscal. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks for clarifying that. Other questions? All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
Sure.
All right, Paula. Welcome to you. How is our investment update going?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right
right.
for the year ending December 31st.
Okay.
Everything's positive for both the quarter and all the longer terms. We're running pretty close to benchmarks in general, just like we have been. The expendable and permanent funds are running a little bit below overall, and the OPEB is running a little bit above benchmarks. And everybody's compliant with their investment policy statement. So that's always a good thing. For expendable investments, we're up 3.8 to 4.6 for the quarter, 6.8 to 8.6 for the calendar and year, up 6.3 to 8.9 for 3 years, and up 4.0 to 6.4 for 5 years, and up between 4 and 4.8 for the year for expendable trusts. Now for permanent trusts, we did a little bit better. We're up 4.8 for the quarter, 11.8 for the year, 12.1 for 3 years, 8.8 for 5 years, and 7.9 since the inception back in 14. And then on OPEB, we're up 3.2 to 5.4 for the quarter, 10.9 to 19.9 for the year, 14.5 to 16 for 3 years, 9.9 to 12.3 for 5 years, and 7.2 to 9.5 since 2014.
What a
So,
difference
and,
options make.
I
huh?
know.
Investment options.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. And for the quarter, the interest minus the cost at Leverage Trust was over 260,000. So that's
Wow.
with all the different trusts.
Okay.
So but that fluctuates. I think some of that may have disappeared this quarter, but we'll talk about that later.
That'll be in the next update. All right.
Yeah,
Other,
we're gonna
other
keep it on your good
questions.
news for this one.
Other questions for Paula on these numbers? No? Okay. Fingers crossed, Paula.
Always.
Thank you so much. These updates are always helpful.
All right, thank you. Take care.
All right. Moving on to our boards and committee updates, starting with our Harbor Committee Governance Working Group and hopefully getting appointments done to that. This has been an idea that's been out there for a while and a long time coming, and I'm excited to have this discussion. I believe we have some people joining us for this. Hold on, attendees. We're going to try to let you in. Lisa, I see you. Hold on, everyone. Trying to get everyone in.
Lisa, I love your screensaver.
I know, that's
whatever
a
it's
great
called.
screen. Many of you know Lisa Hewitt Dick. Thank you for being here, Lisa. Hold on, I think you're muted. But we can see you.
Sorry about that. I'm just popping from another meeting.
No, no problem. Welcome, welcome. So this is, and Lisa, I think you're about to be our fearless leader for this issue. So, and Chris, I don't know if you want to jump in on this. This governance committee has been an issue that's been floated out there for a while. And I know that, Lisa, you've put in so much work yourself just throughout your years helping the town, but especially on the Harbor Committee. Chris, do you want to just give a brief history of how this idea started?
Sure. The board looked at this back last year, actually, and then approved the governance subcommittee. They approved the CHIP, the improvement.
Yep.
And then it kind of set on a side for a little while, and a whole lot of other things happened. And I met back with Tim in the fall and Lisa, and we said we went back and said, yeah, indeed, this had been approved. Lisa got her team together, and so tonight she's going to present them, and this will be the kind of the other side. The CHIP is looking at infrastructure. This is looking more at operations, issues, some of the management issues, and this will allow us to kind of kickstart that conversation.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And again, we have, as you all know, there's a lot of complex issues coming up with our harbor, with the harbor plan, with possibly getting an agreement together with Situate in terms of resiliency planning and other agreements. So Lisa, first of all, thank you for agreeing to help spearhead this. I know we've had a couple other, I believe we have 3 people that applied to also be on this with you: Barbara Canny, Deborah Shad, and David Frog.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
and all individuals who have background in land use, and several of us are attorneys, so we know how to write codes and look at governance and structures. So we're all very excited to be part of this. As Chris mentioned, for several years, I've been part of the Harbor Committee, and through the development under Tim's leadership in looking at the Harbor Committee overall and developing the master plan for the Harbor Committee, it is obvious that there's certain governance issues that have to be looked at. There's no preconceived ideas about the outcome, but there's certain structures that we'd like to look at. Should the Harbor Committee be constituted the way it presently is. So should, do we need, as you've mentioned, that, an MOU, with the town of Situate. For decades, even probably centuries, we've worked simpatico with our neighboring town, but things have changed, as far as the use of it, as far as the public safety issues, how should that be regulated? And so, with this group of people who have been kind enough also to step up to work with us as a subcommittee of the Harbor Committee and as an advisory committee, obviously, to the selectmen and to the town meeting, to just give it a fresh eye and to give it a deep dive on some of these issues.
No, I think it's a great idea. And thank you. You said that perfectly, Lisa. Jack, your hand was up first, then Diane.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm the select board liaison to the harbor. I'm also empowered by the select board to initiate some discussions with Situate. And I think people should know that this is a very, very welcome development, and the people who are with Lisa and Debbie and David and Barbara, we have a very, very good team, because we do need to understand it. We do need to revisit, and we need to do it in a forum of experienced people who have experience in this type of thing. So I applaud these people, and I think the town should know that that they're being well served by this group. So I want to thank all of them for stepping forward. It's well needed, and thank you.
Okay. Diane.
I just, when we formed the Harbor Committee to do the harbor study, it must have been 6 or 7 years ago. Governance was sort of at the top of at least my list at the time. I mean, there's been a lot of change since, obviously, but governance is key to kind of the management and oversight of everything. You can't get anything done unless the governance structure is working. And Lisa and I have had many conversations about this particular working group, and all I wanted to say is it's kind of worth the wait when you get an A team like this.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to make a motion if we're ready for that.
Please do. We're all very excited about this, Lisa.
And Lisa has been appointed. I confirm that, right? Yeah, you've already been appointed, but you're the only one on the governance committee.
I am a
actually
member
am
of the
not
Harbor
sure.
Committee, but no.
I think to be safe, let's just appoint her
Okay.
again.
So
we can appoint you a second time.
I would like to put forth the slate of Lisa Hewitt, Barbara Canny, David Frog, and Debbie Shad for the Harbor Committee Governance Working Group.
We have a second. All right, roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, thank you all. Aye.
Roy Evans, aye.
Amy Haley Dippold,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Yay, this is big progress. Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We look forward to hearing updates.
You shall.
All right.
you.
Sounds good. That's very exciting to move forward with that. I know a lot of us have wanted to see that happen. Okay, another exciting area to talk about, the Affordable Housing Trust update. I believe we are going to discuss possible requests for a transfer of 2 parcels of town-owned land. And Tom, I think, is coming on here. I know Lauren's on here. Ted. Hi, Tom. Steve's coming on. We got it. We got the whole crew coming. Tom, we see you, but I think you're possibly muted. Hi, Steve.
There we go. That's better.
There.
Just a note as well, Ted Carr has joined us.
And Rob, I see Rob Jeffers too. There's Ted. Oh, this is fun. All of you are here.
We roll deep.
No extra charge.
All right. Give us an update.
All right. If I will, in the interest of time, we have representation from both the Affordable Housing Steering Committee and then, of course, from the trust. Our purpose here tonight is to request a warrant article for annual town meeting for the transfer of 2 parcels. This comes from a basic concept that hopefully builds on the success that the Affordable Housing Initiative has had so far. As a matter of fact, Rob will cover that next. I know that he has given you a briefing, but it's worthwhile, once again, just to touch on those highlights. And after that, Tom Mead will bring you through the process that the trust followed to identify viable pieces of property for this initiative and why we came out to that conclusion. Let me wrap by pointing out that any success we've had so far has come from really three elements. Number one, the support of the town and elected officials such as yourselves. The second is funding. We've had enormously generous support through I'm sorry, Diane, were you about to say something?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I'm talking under my breath. I said CPC. Is that where you were going?
Oh, well, I was wondering what you're saying. Yes, we've had enormous support from CPC. And then the final piece that is something we're seeking to build upon, and that is a broader asset base that should help us to accelerate our initiatives. We have a relatively healthy but small fund at the moment, and we have contingent liabilities of $75,000 for the development at 808 Jerusalem, which is yet to start. Excuse me, $15,000 that we have pledged in stages for a deed restriction on South Main Street. And between those two projects, that would add 5 total units to our toward our total affordable housing inventory. But those assets beyond just funding include things like land and the possible development of that. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Rob Jeffers first, who will bring you through again the existing accomplishments and the existing initiatives we're supporting beyond that. And Tom Mead can take it from there to describe the parcels.
Thank you, Steve. That was a perfect overview. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how you doing? Good. So maybe just to like reset, remind us all where we're at. We have 307 affordable units on our housing stock. Back in 2010, we had a total of 2,898 units. So that was more than 10% if you do the quick math. We know that the census is coming, the results should be coming out soon. We anticipate that we'll have at least 3,300 units. And if you do some quick math, 307 divided by 3,300 is less than 10%. So we know that we are going to be under that important 10%, which has everything to do with the 40B. That's the threshold that we need to get over in order to be able to continue to make our own decisions and not have the state come in and be able to override us on planning board. That 25 is the bare minimum, and that gets us to where we needed to be 2 years ago. So if we don't do anything besides that, we'll be in the same similar issues, when the next census happens. So what we do want to do is make sure that not only are we meeting our current obligations or the obligations from 2 years ago, but we are building so that we meet our obligations when the next census comes. So with that, we do have, and you're aware of many of these projects, but I'll just go over them very briefly. Not all of them are definite, but I'd say we have about 43 units that are going on to the could go on to the SHI, so the Affordable Housing Inventory, if they all pan out. 20 of those come from the Chief Justice Highway over by the Stop and Shop. Pleasant Street could be another 14. That's really from the inclusionary zoning, along with them doing at least 25% rentals. Then we get down to some of the smaller pieces. We have 4 units coming from Harbor, which is also the Harbor Project, which is also the inclusionary zoning. But then working with the Affordable Housing Trust, we do have 3 units coming up on Main Street, where we work with a private developer to dedicate one of those units as affordable, since 3 of they're rentable. They're all 3 count in our units. And then we have 808 Jerusalem, which will be 2 units. So that does get us 43, which is definitely, if you do the math, that's more than 25. But there's risk in some of these. Some of them might not happen. As well as, we need to, yeah, we're going to continue to grow and most likely, so we're going to need to get more than 25 in order to meet our units. The other point before I pause, I would say is, and I've said this before, there's some smoke and mirrors here. We are allowed to count all rentable units if 25% are affordable. So you're getting like a 4-for-1. Yeah, so there are actually, of those 43, I believe 16 are actually affordable. So that, you know, if we're thinking about the meeting the community's need, we are not creating 43 units for the community. We're creating 16. So that's a much lower number. So that's why we think it's important to continue to look for projects and not just kind of like say, all right, we're done. We made our number for 2020. We'll let somebody else deal with this in 2030. And we recognize that these projects takes a really long time, and we need to do 2 or 3 or 4 a year, you know, to keep up the numbers. So one of the things we did is we looked at all of the town-owned property. Actually, before I go into that, any questions or comments on there? I mean, I know we did an update just a few months ago, so it's not a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, that update was helpful a few months ago. Any questions as of now? Jack, is that your real hand?
Yeah, that was that. Nice to see you, you know, Rob. You know, I used to be on the affordable housing when we were trying to figure this out. One thing that we should be aware of, Rob makes a good point, that when, you know, 4 units creates that we can count of rental, only 1 is actually affordable. The other thing, and Rob, you may want to, you know, clarify this, but if somebody has something that in fact is rented at an affordable rate, if it is not a deed restricted requirement to keep it forever, we can't use that. So example, there might be a rental unit in a duplex that's rented at an affordable rate, and the affordable is moderate, not low income. Rob, that's correct. We would not be able to count that towards our affordable.
Correct. So currently we can't count those. So like there's units in, you know, what I call them town owned, but they're not really, they're nonprofit owned, you know, units. They're very affordable. Myself and Ted Carr from the Affordable Housing Trust are approaching DHCD about this to see how we can get it in. It is not, we are not able to do it in the typical manner, which is a local action unit. In order to create a local action unit, you have to actually create a new affordable unit. So you we're kind of in a catch-22. It's already affordable, so we're not creating a new one, so it can't be considered a local action unit. Gotta love bureaucracy. But yeah, but it is affordable. So there are ways around it. But it's with all of these things, it's time, you know, and so I will work with, you know, Ted on the Affordable Housing Trust on that. I don't know, Ted, I see you unmuted, so I'll pause there.
Yeah.
No, that's
No,
basically-
I did want to add so
ahead,
people understand. I did want to add so people understand that a lot of times what Rob and Ted and Tom and Steve are trying to do, they would like to do, but they're hamstrung by various state regulations.
Okay, Ted, hi.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Yeah, that's basically, yeah, Rob's hit it right on the head. You know, the rules today around affordability are different than in some cases when those units were created then. And so one of the things we're trying to figure out is what opportunities are there in that category, but you're both absolutely correct. But we recognize this as a group and we're proceeding to figure out if we can do something about it.
There's about, we've identified 7 units that fall into that category. So the other area that we're looking at, and we know this will take time, and it kind of goes to what Tom's going to talk about in more in detail, is we came up in many of the meetings you were at, Jack. It was like, well, the town has all this land. Why don't we just build on that? So what we did is a survey with Lauren's help, looking at, you know, all of the town-owned land. And so the first thing we did is said, okay, is it buildable? So we did an analysis. We got some, you know, input from, you know, local developers, but, you know, certain things, it's not big enough. It's on wetlands. It's not just a buildable lot. So we excluded all of those. We then looked at where they were, is like, does this make sense, for to build housing, just in general, because the town might own something that's literally in the middle of the woods and there's no roads or anything like that, so that gets kind of excluded out. We then looked at, is this something that somebody's already has plans for? So there are lots that the town owns that have been talked about for whether it's a new firehouse or something like that. And we're going like, we don't want to get into a fight with somebody else about it. Like, we're not looking to change everything. So let's try to, streamline it as much as possible. And we came up with, 4 units where we thought that, they were reasonable for the Affordable Housing Trust to look at. We think that they would be good to move into the Affordable Housing Trust for 1 of 2 reasons. One is to put it into the trust, and then we could partner with the developer, private or nonprofit, to build on that land and create affordable units. Or it could potentially be used as a funding source. If we didn't want to put affordable housing there, it's a place. So we gave them 4 units. I think Tom's going to talk to the particulars of the 2 that they're looking to put on the warrant, but wanted to give you just a little bit of background, because I know with these conversations, it's what about this place? What about that? We did have a process. We did go through and meet about these, and we did, really look at, these are the ones we think are best. And then the Affordable Housing Trust did another review to narrow it down to give us ones that we think make the most sense to bring to the town.
Okay, well said, Rob.
Okay. I'll pass it off to Tom.
Sure. Thanks, guys. So I think what I want to do is give you guys an overview of the process that we went through at a high level, how we went through our analysis. We want to stay away from, given the public meeting process here, we want to stay away from any talk about, valuation or like specific development properties or development potential in any of these particular properties. So it's more about, which ones they were and why we think they make the most sense. As Rob said, there were 4 that were advanced to us. 2 we put aside because I think they need some more analysis around the possibility for maybe some assemblage or to do a bigger, longer term deal. And so what we thought we wanted to do here was bring forward for this first warrant article, two parcels that we think are sort of most immediately actionable. It's not that these other 2 parcels don't make sense to bring on, potentially convey to the Affordable Housing Trust, but that if we're going to kind of try to capitalize on the little bit of momentum that we have here now, we want to ask for the conveyance of these 2 parcels at this year's town meeting, because we know we can make quick progress on them, and then in the background continue our study of what might be able to be done with these other maybe slightly more complicated parcels. So the first one that we'll be requesting to transfer to the Affordable Housing Trust is 39 Mill Lane. And if I can share my screen.
It should let you.
Yeah, let's see. So here is Shaw's, the west side of Beechwood down here into Mill Lane. The town owns this square parcel here. I know you may not be able to see the outline, so I use this. This one is a little brighter. It's right here. So as you can see, it's in, it's on an existing street. This is not a paper road. There are other homes around it. The parcel is technically non-conforming. It's 14,500 square feet. A buildable single family lot here would be 35,000 square feet. But where it does sit in an established neighborhood, we would draw a very tight parallel here to 808 Jerusalem Road, where we think the sort of highest and best use for this property as a town-owned parcel would be to partner, as Rob had mentioned, with a developer to more than likely, I think what we would see in an RFP process would likely be sort of like a duplex style, townhouse style, try and get 2 units on this piece of land. The process would be very, very similar to 808 Jerusalem Road, and we can capitalize on our experience with that process as far as developing the RFP. We know sort of how to word it. Town council specific to our Affordable Housing Trust Council has been great to work with. And, we feel like within 60 or 90 days of conveyance of this parcel, we could have the RFP out and potentially, have a developer identified by calendar year end. Very important, obviously, to work with all the stakeholders in town, make sure, from a planning and zoning and all the rest that this makes sense. And of course, the neighborhood as well. It's never going to be easy citing these things. But I think, again, one of the things we'll try to do is point to our success with 808 Jerusalem. Hopefully we'll have some sort of architectural renderings on 808 and we can point to, hey, here's the type of thing we'd like to put in this neighborhood. We can make it make a lot of sense. So that's 39 Mill Lane. And then 25 Heather Drive is Heather Drive is up off of Forest. So here's Main Street as you head towards the beach off here on your right. This is actually a conforming single family lot that the town owns by, I think, tax taking. And this is a tighter view of it. You can see here, pretty typical Cohasset cul-de-sac road. Bunch of conforming lots have been cut out. This one still sits there. Again, this is a little tighter view. You can see this lot right here. And this would fall into the second category that Rob had mentioned of a potential funding source. If this parcel is conveyed to the Affordable Housing Trust, we can go through the process of the RFP process again to sell the property and use the proceeds to fund the trust and help us do things like, buy deed restrictions on new construction projects, help out with the soft costs. Like that's $75,000 grant that we're making to 808 Jerusalem Road. That's exactly the type of subsidy stacking that we want to be able to do in the town here, where we can work with developers and be able to provide some soft cost mitigation, some dollars, some actual payments out to encourage developers to provide the new construction, which is incredibly expensive to build. So we can provide good local subsidy, with the proceeds from a sale like this. So those are the two parcels. I said, Rob and his team did a great job along with town planning officials going through each of these parcels for, suitability, location, all those types of things. We think these are immediately actionable. And there are a couple of other parcels which we'd be coming back to talk to you folks about, but for the purposes of this warrant article that we'll be looking for you guys to support, we're going to keep it to these two parcels for this year, and we want to really build on this little bit of success we have going with 808 Jerusalem. So I'll stop there and take any questions.
Thanks, Tom. And to echo what you just said, so much work has gone into finding and researching these two parcels, and this is really exciting progress to see that we could potentially get this on the warrant for our next town meeting. Diane, did I see your hand?
Yes, I just had a question, and it's probably for Lauren or Chris, just in terms of what the process is, like what kind of public hearing process does this need to go through before it gets on the warrant?
Lauren or Chris?
So I don't quickly know the answer off the top of my head. It's not a zoning article. I don't know that it requires a public hearing. I will vet that with council and get back to you.
Okay.
I don't have a clear response on that.
Thanks.
I was going to say much the same. I don't think it requires any other action than the select board putting it on a warrant and then having discussed through the regular process with advisory and that. That said, we'll have something drafted up and then get some answers.
Okay. Great, Corey.
Yeah, Chris, I think this is for you too, but also I guess for my colleagues in general. And thank you to everyone on the Affordable Housing Trust and the steering committee. I echo Rob's earlier sentiments about there's what we must do and kind of what we should do, and those are two separate things. And we obviously have to take care of the must do and the crisis, but we also once that work is done, I think looking forward to have an inclusive community is something that benefits all of us. So thanks for your work on that. However, for the piece of property that we could use as a funding source. I'm just curious, is this something that we could use as a funding source for something else? Is this a discussion point? Should we be discussing if we're going to sell this, if there are other priorities? Should we look at this more holistically, or is this really a mechanism that's ideally suited to fund this sort of thing, if possible? Chris, do you have any?
And Steve, I see your hand up too, maybe as a response to that.
Well, that's a policy decision for all of you. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, if the land is saleable, and again, it's been great that we've actually done a little bit of a dissection. This is, we're looking at we're doing the field study now. There's a bunch of things. We've looked at a lot of land, which is really good. And most of the land the town owns is undeveloped. It's wet, it's underwater, it's small, it's rocky. There are a handful of parcels that are potentially developable. And the board has to make a decision as to what you can transfer by law parcels to the Affordable Housing Trust for purposes like this, both to develop and to fund. I think the broader conversation that you'll have to have is if that fits the goals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Steve.
Thank you. Corey, echoing what Chris just pointed out, the answer finally in its final form is a decision for the select board. It's a policy decision. The guidance that has always passed by the town as a matter of measurement, if you will, is that land and physical property should seek highest and best use. Now that's a pretty vague statement, but one in which you can apply judgment. And so in our view in this case, the highest and best use for that piece of property has not been to sit idle for 20 years off the tax rolls. All right. And at that point, we look at it and say, well, what is the best application for that parcel? And given where it lies, one would logically argue that it should be housing. It's not going to be a strip mall. It's not going to be anything else. And if it were housing, that would return, without a doubt, the most highly valued asset the town has, buildable land, back to the tax rolls. So the town wins, right, in two ways. One, of course, it does become a funding source for the trust. And frankly, the trust has found two ways to really leverage that funding source. One of them is, as Tom Mead points out, is subsidy stacking, be able to come in with money to help a project along. The second is, and it's really applicable if we can do it, Jack brought it up before, Mr. Creighton brought it up before, and that is securing deed restrictions on existing properties. Those are expensive as well because you're reducing value below market for what amounts to a 30-year put on a piece of property. Those aren't inexpensive propositions, and if we're going to truly try to build out inclusionary housing for the town as a whole, we're going to have to look at a variety of ways of doing it. They will all cost money. And frankly, we hate to be so blunt about it, but we believe that the highest and best use of this particular parcel is probably to generate cash.
Mm-hmm. No, Steve, you sum it up really well. And I mean, as a town, we do have to put our money where our mouth is. And this issue is so important to so many people in town. It's an issue we've spent a lot of hours on. And I think we really do need to move forward on this warrant. Jean.
Thank you all for the presentation and for the information and research. One question that I had relating to, I think it was the parcel near Beechwood. One concern I always have with affordable housing is with wherever the site is, given that we're in Cohasset and we already have flood issues. It's a lot harder if you're someone living in affordable housing to deal with the perils of flood than maybe others within Cohasset. And so I was looking at the FEMA flood maps to see where that parcel lies in relation, because I do think we want to set up, those who are in affordable housing for success. So I would just, put that out there in terms of a consideration. And Steve, I candidly admit, I'm looking at the FEMA flood map and I can't figure out if it's exactly in or out. I can't zoom in close enough to get an accurate, it looks like it's just outside, but I did want to raise it because resiliency continues to be on the top of my mind.
And
And
flood insurance, like you said, Jean, flood insurance is a big problem that a lot of.
it's a crushing
Yeah.
obligation for homeowners. And so for particularly at certain income strata. So I just, I want to be mindful of that as we look through property and, the fact that the flood maps are probably going to change.
Steve.
Excellent point, Jean. I will tell you without question that this is something that Tom probably has a better answer to, but this would be examined in an RFP by any respondent. And whether or not it becomes a buildable lot would be determined through that RFP. Look, I was in one of your seats some time ago when the FEMA flood maps were updated and the entire town was wiped out. And that doesn't mean for a moment that they're not to be attended to, because insurance companies look at them, and that's the most important thing. You're absolutely right that would become part of the consideration. If you support placing an article in the warrant for these transfers, I can tell you this: it's not in the interest of the trust to acquire land and then sit on it. That's not our hope. And if in fact it turns out that this were not a buildable parcel, then in all likelihood, I can foresee the trust asking to move it back into onto the balance sheet of the town as a whole. There's nothing that says we have to keep it in perpetuity. We are looking for the opportunity to develop or to partner in development. And well, frankly, not as Chris pointed out earlier, there's not a lot of land that the town owns that is going to be ideally suited for that. So we've got to take a stab.
Yeah.
So this is our first request, and this is where we're going with it.
No, you're right, Steve. There are only so many options to do this. And before the flood maps even change, we need to take action. Lauren, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to share with you my screen for the Mill Lane parcel in question. While it is near wetlands, from what I have in our database, this is the property highlighted here. It's not any wetland, just to put some mind at ease. Of course, as Steve Gomer mentioned, more due diligence would occur in any sort of RFP process that happened. But when I was vetting the parcels that the Affordable Housing Steering Committee had brought forward, wetlands layers was one of the criteria that we did look at initially.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Jack, was that a hand?
Yeah, I've actually walked up around there, and I'm not sure. Potentially it could be a problem, but I don't think so. And I would also point out that I know the professional qualifications of the members of the Affordable Housing Trust, and I'm sure they're quite capable of making that determination. So I think this is a great opportunity and we should move forward. And I think Steve laid it out well, that if things were to change in some way, they already have an exit plan. So I think this is a great opportunity, and I'm strongly supporting the Affordable Housing Trust as they move forward with this.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like the next steps moving forward are to draft some warrant language and get these ready to go for showtime at town meeting. Tom.
Yeah, just one quick clarification or point I guess I wanted to make, whether it's about Heather Drive or anything we might run into down there on Mill Lane. I think that's the point, is like, this is what we do, right? And you guys are, you've got your hands full. It's 9:10. You know, we were on the we were on the agenda for 7:45. You guys have your hands full. So if you move these parcels over to the AHT, we will find the highest and best use for them. And for example, one of the things like on Mill Lane, for example, if you ever run into an issue, you know, maybe that's the point at which then we go talk to the neighbors and say, hey, you know, looking for a bigger backyard, can we get some amount of money by combining parcels. Is there some other, creative way we can extract value from this parcel? And that's the type of time that we have, and the type of expertise that we have, and the type of things that we want to do, given the inputs, so to speak. So that's what we're here to do. And we really look forward to it.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, we do know we are running way behind on schedule.
That was more like you guys need less to do, not more. Give it to us.
Diane and then Steve.
Again, I'm super supportive on the Affordable Housing Trust. And when I saw these guys populate the screen, I almost said best committee ever. So I just said it now. It really incredible work by everybody. And I just want to make sure, like, does this actually have to go to town meeting, or do we have the authority on the select board to make these transfers? So I just want to make sure, we're minimizing.
Right. No, that's a valid question.
The effort to do whatever we need to do.
I mean, with the 80, I'm thinking back, sorry, what we did with the 808 Jerusalem one, I was assuming it would have to be a similar process to that. Chris?
Yeah, it all depends on how the town acquired the land. So if it was, so that's the reason that 808 Jerusalem was horrible in the way it was, because the treasurer collector was the custodian, because it was a tax. I don't know how the town acquired some of these others. Some of them the town may have owned for a long time. The subdivision one looks like it might have been a tax taking, but again, we have to go back and look at the history of them and then just double check with council, and that'll dictate how the town got the land, dictates how the town can dispose of it.
But cannot we now vote in favor of this, subject to town councils, whatever?
Well, that's sort of where I was going, like, what is
Yeah.
the motion? Because this isn't necessarily to put something on the warrant, because we don't necessarily need to know to do that. So I think we need to do something that signals next steps.
You can just direct it to work with council to figure out next steps on all those. If a warrant article is appropriate, then we'll have one prepared, something like that.
Steve?
May I suggest?
Yes, please.
In the interest of time, one of the things that we do have is a little bit of expendable funds. I'm happy to ask our council, the Affordable Trust Council, to examine the background on the acquisition of the properties. In other words, how did the town come to own them, and how might they be then transferred, and report back to you, or report back to Town's Council accordingly. All right. The reason for doing it this way, or suggesting it be done this way, is that we can expedite it. If that makes sense to you, then I think we could move forward on that approach.
I think that's a great suggestion, Steve. Thank you for suggesting it. Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
I can't.
And a second. All right. Yeah, you kind of did, Steve. It's fine. We'll allow it. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
What's the motion for exactly? I mean, we can support this in consensus, but I'm wondering, I mean, if it sounded like Affordable Housing Trust was going to do the research, come back, and then we can vote on. I mean, I just don't want to vote on something with doesn't vote on.
We're just saying, Corey, we're just saying we're in favor of it.
We're voting to move forward, right? Like we're voting to let Steve and the trust talk to council, figure out the details, advise us on if this needs to be a warrant article discussion. So I think the vote here is to just vote to move forward with that plan.
If I may, Carrie, I respectfully request that the select board consider voting to support the placement of a warrant article if necessary for the transfer of one or both of these parcels. And then likewise, unrelated to any such motion, I commit that the Affordable Housing Trust Council will do the research we discussed and report back to Town Council and Chris Senior.
So Steve, a motion that said the select board is in favor of transferring these to the Affordable Housing Trust, and if it is needed, to recommend placing a warrant. Does that capture the essence?
It captures the essence. I don't want to put words in the select board's mouth. Really, what we came before you tonight to do was to gain support for the warrant article. It sounds as if it exists, and we're thrilled. By it.
Yeah. Well, then
so.
I think that does what you want it to do, and so I have that. I will withdraw my previous motion and submit the motion that the select board is in favor of transferring control of these parcels to the Cohasset Affordable Housing Trust, and if necessary, putting a warrant on the town meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? Jean, I see your hand up. I'll get there in a minute. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Further discussion. Jean, you have your hand up.
My only preference would be just to wait to figure out exactly what we need to do. And, quite frankly, I think Corey did raise an important point that the select board needs to discuss more globally about prioritization of money and expenses. It's not that I don't support this, but we could use CPC funding, for example, to give money to the Affordable Housing Trust. We can't, the money isn't as fungible. If we were to just sell the land, we could use it to defray the cost of town hall or something else that wouldn't otherwise qualify for supporting an affordable housing project. And so I do think that there's a little bit of movement that is perhaps worthy of taking a pause. And we probably will get to the same place at the end of the day, which may be for the Affordable Housing Trust, just more money that gives you flexibility, plus perhaps no lane. But I do have an open question about Heather Drive in light of the moving pieces that we have to consider, including the town hall committee that's almost up right now.
Okay, Corey.
I was just going to recommend that we amend the motion somewhat to suggest that the select board directs the town manager to work with town council and the Affordable Housing Trust and Steering Committee to draft language, which we can review, draft language for a future warrant article, which we can review. So we support the process of creating this language to move forward, but we're not making any policy decisions yet at this time.
I would second that amendment.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
All right, so we had a
Was that
motion and a
clear?
second, and now we have an amendment on the motion and a second on that.
So we vote on the amendment.
Amendment.
Yeah, so we're
And then
voting
we-
on Corey's
and then
amendment.
And then we vote on the initial.
Yeah, so any
Okay.
further discussion? I will say I probably would be more comfortable with Steve's original suggestion with moving full speed ahead with this, but I understand the hesitation of some of my fellow board members here. All right, so voting on this amendment that Corey just made, roll call vote, starting
Jack
with
Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, now we're back to vote again on the updated overall motion. Any further discussion on that? Okay, roll call vote. Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Okay, whew. I do think we're all going to eventually get to the same place on this. It feels like there's a lot of positive momentum here. Steve and Ted and Rob and Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Our
time.
pleasure. Thank you guys. for
Thank
your
you,
time.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
everybody.
well
Thanks.
done, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
We'll be here.
Okay. Whew. I know we're running behind. Hang in there, everyone. This last big part of our agenda is a joint meeting with Town Hall Building Committee, which is very exciting. I know it's late, but I think it will be worth it. Hi, Carolyn. I see Mark on. I see John and Michelle.
We love catching everyone when they're tired.
Well spoken, well spoken.
Hi, everyone. Tucker, I see you. Phil's coming in. Steve, everyone's here. All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi there. Thank you for having us.
You, Phil. So everyone's here. All right.
Let's see. One,
Hi,
two.
everyone.
Hi there. Thank you for
Hold
having
on,
us.
there's a weird delay echo happening. Everyone's here. All right. Hold on, there's a weird delay. Echo happening. Hold on, there's a weird delay. Okay, are we back? That was weird. I am sorry. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know,
Okay.
but it went away when Phil muted.
I'll throw him under the bus.
Phil, do you have
don't
us on your TV
I know, but it
screen?
went away when Phil muted.
I'll throw
Phil, mute again. Mute again. Oh God,
And now
Zoom
he's gone.
land is so weird. I apologize. I wish we could all be in person, but you know, there is a convenience of Zoom being able to be home when it's this late. So we are very much looking forward to hearing an update from all of you. I know a lot of exciting progress has been made. I know a lot of work has been put into this project. Update from all of you. I know a lot. Phil, mute. We have identified the problem. Phil, we love you, but there seems to be something happening. So I believe you do need to call you all to order, correct? For our joint, we need to call the building committee to order. And Phil, I know,
Correct.
I don't know if you're allowed to talk yet, but. Do you all want to call the town hall building to order, or does one of you want to start with update?
Fortunately, I have the update.
Oh, great. Okay.
I can call us to order. Do you need us to do a roll call attendance?
Yes, ideally,
Okay.
yeah, just for the record.
Okay. So I'll just say a first name as I see you on my screen. If you'll just say your name and say you're here. Mark.
Mark Cameron here.
Tucker.
Tucker Meehan here.
Garrett. Unmute.
Garrett Lubitz here.
Phil.
Phil.
Phil Lair here. And Carolyn Coffey here. I think that's it. We also have with us from our owner's project manager, Vertex, John Lemieux and Steve Kirby. And with that, I think I can just jump in. We just wanted to bring you up to date as to what's been going on since we last were in front of you, and talk a little bit about timing, basically.
Perfect.
Most of the work since we last saw you has been by the architects and the owner's project manager. They're diving into the nitty gritty of bringing the design into construction documents. And they are more than 75% done. We have been going through them, making comments. And trying to get to a place where we would have bids in hand for the May 2nd town meeting. At our meeting last week, though, we talked again about timing. In December, the idea of having a different bid process, a different contractor process was brought to us. We pushed it aside because we didn't think it was logistically possible, given the May 2nd timeframe. It was brought up again at our last meeting. We had a very long discussion, and that's why we are in front of you now. We voted unanimously to recommend to you all that we think it would benefit the process if we did not ask for full funding on May 2nd, but instead waited perhaps until the fall. The primary reasons are logistical. In today's crazy supply chain market, I'm sure everybody is aware of what's going on in the construction industry. It was brought to our attention by Vertex and by our industry expert, Mark Cameron, that there is an option besides the design, bid, build traditional process of going through a large construction process like that, which is hiring a construction manager at risk The construction manager gives you a guaranteed purchase price and works with you before you go out to bid during your value engineering process. They help you manage your contingencies, and Vertex will, at some point go into a lot of detail. It doesn't have to be tonight because we haven't necessarily decided we want to do it, but we do like the idea and want the option. If we do go this route, we would need to ask for money on the warrant to pay for the construction manager. It would be up to $200,000 is our best estimate. We do have a placeholder there, but we want to make sure that you guys know that we're discussing this. And then, further on logistics, a fall approval would help us manage the actual construction process, both from a empty the building, find a place for the employees to be before we need to be ready for demolition and rebuilding, as well as possible long-term purchase requirements. Because of the current supply chain issues, there are certain products that you might have a year-long wait to get them, and being able to order them before we start the construction process will make sure that we can have everything on site when it needs to be used on site. And then again, on logistics, frankly, the Town Hall Building Committee still has work to do to make sure that the CPC and the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission make sure everyone is aware of what's going on, has had a chance to give their input, and feels comfortable with the idea, as well as going out to the townspeople and making sure that we've socialized the idea, that we have talked about why it's important. And then, of course, in order to be able to do that, we have to have the answer to the biggest question in the room, which is how it's going to be paid for. And that brings us to kind of the last element, which is we did get an updated cost basis for this, given what's going on in the marketplace. And instead of the $13.5 to $14 million number that we had been working with, it looks like it's going to be $15 million. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. And just as an aside, we wanted to make sure that we also updated the cost to repair the building, so that we were looking at that as well, because we know we have to invest in the building in one way or another. The number that we had been working with was $9.7 million. And if we take the construction aspect of that and apply the industry standard cost escalator to it, it looks like that would come up closer to $11.5 million is our best estimate. So still less than the 15 million, but at the end of the day, we wouldn't have the building that we were really looking to have. So that's the quick update. Obviously, put a lot of questions out there, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions for us, and hopefully we can help with that.
Okay, thank you for that update, Carolyn. This is exciting to hear about the progress being made. Questions for Carolyn from select.
Or not necessarily me, for the team.
Yeah, for everyone. Questions for everyone.
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you.
Hi, Phil.
Some people will do anything to get out of a meeting. And I always believed as a chairperson did their job, they really didn't have to speak at a meeting. So thank you. Thank you very much.
We're happy to be able to hear you again, Phil.
Happy to be
I
here.
want Carolyn back.
All right, Corey, I saw your hand first.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think what the challenges you've identified and the plan you've kind of brought forward makes just a lot of sense. I think it's pretty prudent. I mean, professionally, I'm heavily involved in international trade, and delays for getting things, shipping costs, stuff that used to cost $6,000 to get across the ocean now costs $25,000, and instead of 45 days, it's 120 or longer. It's just it's a mess. And I think there's a lot of pieces here that are up in the air. So I think you guys are paying attention and listening, and as usual, guiding us in the right direction. So thank you.
Yeah, that's an important point to make, Corey. John.
Thank you. Just a quick point onto what Carolyn said. The biggest aspect of using a construction manager at risk is that you would be getting cost estimates periodically from the person who would be building your job. So that's the biggest difference, we're between, if we go down the design, bid, build route, which, the design the whole thing, bid the whole thing, we would still be getting estimates from the designer along the way. But we would also be getting estimates ourselves from a third-party estimator and reconciling those two. With the CM, it's much better because you're actually using their estimating department who are living this cost cycle every day, dealing with delays, items that they can't get, and we'll be using their numbers. So we won't be providing that, but the CM would be, so that's the big benefit. So the person who's helping you, who would actually build it, is dealing with it. And at that time, if certain things are sky high or whatever reason, they can help contribute to the process and say, hey, instead of doing it this way, let's do it this way instead. Give us options. Obviously, the value in the CM at risk is getting them while the design is still not complete. Because if it's completed and then they come up with a great idea, you're going to pay the designer to go back and change something in the design. So if we get this process started, we will have the benefit of them through the end of the construction documents, kind of spring, summer, and then bidding in the fall. And then, as Carolyn also said, that bidding in the fall allows us that kind of 4 months. If you were going to bid this thing, November, December, we wouldn't really put a shovel in the ground till March. And that would allow 4 months of procurement. Because there's very likely right now on a project that we had expected to take 14 months, if we were putting rubber roofing down, roofing can take 10 months from contracting to arrive. Well, you can't put the building together if you can't get a roof on it. So what we've had to do is get creative with CMs on other projects and order things like roofing, like she said, almost a year early, so that it gets there when we need it. So we don't quite know what's going to happen in the market, but we think the flexibility of having a CM as a partner will help us kind of dodge and weave and pivot, to be able to, get Cohasset kind of the best deal we can.
Thank you for clarifying that, John. That's helpful and makes absolute sense. Jean and then Jack.
Thank you for the presentation, Carolyn. I'm asking in part in my role as a member of CPC, is the historic portion of the building still 4 million, or has that cost increased within the 15? I'm just curious about how the historic portion breaks down within the numbers you provided. I think it might be still 4 million, but I just can't remember.
I'll be honest, Jean, I don't know. Do you?
I don't think we've.
I'm not sure we've broken it down, but it's all construction costs. So I'm assuming that it would apply to the whole building because it's all materials and labor, and there's going to be materials and labor in both halves of the building. So,
unfortunately, it would apply to the renovation portion also. Just as Carolyn said, it is construction costs.
Okay.
And what we would be able to do, obviously, moving forward is in future estimates, really get a more detail. As time goes on, the estimates get more detailed as the design gets more detailed. So therefore, the breakup of those costs as we move closer and closer to funding decisions would be able to give you an even better breakout of what the costs are associated with this potentially CPC funded portions of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jean, do you have another follow-up?
No, I'm fine with waiting.
Jack, then Diane.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of using this. It allows much tighter control, and I think we're really going to have tighter control. However, for those people who are watching at home, I think a little basic layman's explanation of exactly what, the construction manager does would be very, very helpful, because
Sure.
I think people at home don't quite understand.
No, absolutely. So there are two main methods of procuring a building under public contracting. Both are dictated by Mass General Law. So the first is design, bid, build, which falls under Mass General Law, Chapter 149. So basically, you design the job to 100% complete bid documents, you bid the job, and it's awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Okay, so basically, design is done. Any cost estimates you get along the way are from independent cost estimators. The first time the builders actually see the drawings is when they're 100% complete. That's one option. The other option is the construction manager at risk delivery method, and that's handled through Mass General Law, Chapter 149A. It's a little bit newer. I think was around 2004, 2005 that it came into play. And basically what you're doing is, instead of buying a building for a price, you're hiring professional services of a builder to kind of work with you for the remainder of the design process, and then through the bidding process, through the bidding and then building process. It's completely open book accounting. So basically, unlike design, bid, build, where we would have a series of sub bids, which would equate to about half the price, and then the GC would come up with the other half of the price, put them together and give you one number. With CM at risk, you still get that first half of sub bids, but that second half is all open book. So there's no question about what the quotes are coming in for the site work or for the structural steel or those sorts of things. And we also have the ability to participate in the buyout of those. So, the old school filed sub bids that happen under the hard bid scenario are called trade bids under CM at risk. But then there are all of the non-trade subs, which we typically would have no access to understanding where those numbers are. So it allows us to participate, as I said, in those buyouts, and also in this kind of bid market, understand what, if any, kind of risk they're putting into their numbers for escalation. One of the hardest things we're being hit with on current projects is, okay, somebody bid $1 million to do the electrical, and then 3/4 of the way through the job, they say, oh, it cost me more. So they're submitting escalation claims. So basically, now we're seeing in the marketplace, lots of bidders are padding their numbers. So what we want to try to do is identify those risks, call them out. You're not going to save the money, but let's put it aside and tell a bidder, hey, if you want to put $50,000 aside because costs might go up, that's fine, but identify it. And then if we don't use it, that's money that goes back to the owner. You don't get to just hold on to things and then profit from a roll of the dice. So the CM at risk method gives you a little bit more flexibility with understanding those allowances and all those kind of carve outs. And then as the process takes place, as Carolyn said, we end up at a guaranteed maximum price. And again, that maximum price may have a lot of allowances in it, but again, if those allowances don't happen, they all come back, and it's our job along the throughout the process to make sure that those things are guarded and not spent unless they're approved, and then any monies come back to Cohasset at the end of the day. We found it very. We just finished. We just opened one elementary school. We're doing another middle high school right now. Just finished a library, which was a smaller project, much like yours. Usually this has been reserved for 20, 30, $40 million projects. But the one we just did was 12, and it was really a good fit, especially coming into COVID as a delivery method.
Okay.
Thank you. And I love the transparency. So I think the taxpayers need to know how their money's being spent.
Okay, Jack, are you good?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right.
Thank
you. Diane, then Jean.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for their hard work. This was such a great presentation and very thorough. And I support anything you come to us with, because I know you've done the hard work. And most of my questions was about this construction manager at risk, and you answered most of them, John. Thank you. How does that position get procured? How do we
Great.
select that?
Great question. That's the one piece I left out. Under the design bid build method, we would have the ability, we would have to pre-qualify all the general contractors as well as the filed sub-bid trades. Under CM at risk, you have it really starts as a similar pre-qualification process, but really with just the CMs. We put out an RFQ. Excuse me, before we do that, we have to ask the Inspector General's office to go ahead and use that method. It's part of the regs. You have to say, why do you want to do it? And our big reason would be, hey, craziness in the market with pricing. We think it's perfect for this method. 99% they're going to say yes. Once we do that, we put out an RFQ and request for qualifications for CMs. And they basically send us a response to a statutory document that says, give us your qualifications. And of course, anybody that's doing it, I don't think we've ever said no to a CM that has a decent track record. After that, you move on to kind of a two-phase process where they submit a specific response, a non-price proposal, basically their work plan of how they're going to do your job, and then a pricing proposal. And you say, wait a minute, how can they give us a pricing proposal when the job's not done? What we do is we come up with a rough schedule for them that we say, this is how long pre-construction is going to be. This is how long construction is going to be based on a timeline of a fall procurement, maybe a March start date. And we come up with a duration. And what they do is they give us at that time their pricing for three things. They give us the price for the pre-construction services, which is that's it. That's the entirety of their contract. Because if there's a failed bid at town meeting, it goes no further. If there's an approved vote at town meeting, the next things that they price are their fee. They basically tell us what they're going to bid for their profit on the project. Usually ranges between 1.5% and 2.5%. And it's based on a rough amount. We'll use that last estimate that we have. So 1% of 14 million, that's their fee. And then general conditions, which is their management costs to run the job on a daily basis. Superintendent, project manager, trailers, toilets, radios, telephones, all of those things that it takes to run the job. And they give us that price. And based on the combination of that non-price and price proposal, we make the best decision for the town. And the other big part is you get a chance to interview the team that's going to build the job. Because unlike the design bid build portion where you really don't have the opportunity to meet, you get to see the team on paper, but you actually get a chance with CM at risk to put them in front of you, interview them and ask them questions. How would you handle this? How do you handle costs? And kind of vet through all of that. In addition to getting their cost, call it their bid information. The reality is they're locking in on the portions of their costs or the portions of their bid, your price that are theirs. Everything else is a sub cost. Goes back to that open book. If the electrician's $1 million, it's $1 million. If the structural steel guy is 400,000, we will have seen that they were the lowest bid of the 4 or the 3 or the 4 or the 5, however many bid, and come back to you. And we help them build that GMP, guaranteed maximum price. And that would be the number we would bring to town meeting and say, guys, worst case, this is what this is going to cost. And obviously along the way, we will have checked, to make sure that we don't trip that nausea meter too high. And if there are things we need to do to bring it back down, they're participating as a full partner in the process throughout that.
Okay, Diane, you good? Okay. All right, Jean.
I can almost guarantee I'll need that explained to me again later on, not tonight, please. No offense. Very detailed, very detailed. And I apologize, Carolyn, if you said this and I missed it, but I know that we have some members of capital budget in the audience, and I think it would be great to take a pass through capital budget in terms of like updating them, including on the cost issues. We had a presentation last week, not from capital budget, from Dawn on the 10-year or not even 10-year at this point, 2-3-year plan on capital needs. And so I think it would be helpful for capital budget to be looped into the process as well, and which again may be on your list, and my notes just missed it.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone or final comments? All right, this has been a great update and very exciting progress, and to be continued. Thank you all for staying up late with us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you soon.
Do we take away from this?
Yes, you
that
need to adjourn your meeting.
We need to adjourn our meeting, but also, we're making a recommendation on May 2nd. Are you guys going to give us feedback on your opinions on that? On delaying the full ask?
So you're asking specifically about May 2nd. I
The
wasn't.
town meeting,
Right,
annual
no,
town meeting. And originally the hope was to ask for full funding for the project at the May 2nd meeting.
Right.
So, are we to go forward as if with our plan to go beyond that date?
And it will be asking for the CM at risk piece, just that piece of the number at that meeting.
I mean, we can, based on consensus, it seems like yes. I don't know if we want to take a formal vote as a board tonight, Jack.
I think that by the way, people should know what late these people have been working on the town hall committee. We ought to name it after all of them. But I think what I'm hearing, and correct me, Caroline, if I'm wrong, is that what you want to do is you want to say the $200,000 request at town meeting, and to have it managed by the CM commercial construction management system. Is that?
Jack, I think I think the way to best say it is, the committee is recommending moving ahead with the CM at risk delivery method, and as such needs to request up to $200,000 to be able to pay for pre-construction services for that CM. So we don't, that we could come in, they could come in less than that. So we've kind of put a number that we think we're comfortable with. We should be able to, do better than that. But, we won't be able to start interviewing. We have the ability to submit an application to the IG's office to get the okay, but we won't start issuing RFQs or anything until after town meeting says, you've got the money.
Okay.
So
go ahead, Jack.
So,
I see Corey's
Carrie,
hand.
I think where we're trying to get on this is they want us to say as a select board that plan is okay and that we endorse that plan. Is that correct?
Carolyn?
The issue for us is if we are told that we have to go for May town meeting, then our job starting today is different than if we're going with this other plan. So yes, getting some feedback from you guys would be great.
Corey has a question.
Well, so I don't think there was ever a time, it wasn't in your charge that May 2nd was a date. We've never voted to say that that's a date. So I don't think there's anything we have to undo like actively. So I don't think we need to motion to undo.
That was more my question. What
right. And then my second question for Mr. Senior, if he's still there, or Michelle, whoever. I mean, we have allocated funding for the project already in 2 rounds. Can the 200, is that 200 ask part of that project, or does this really need to be a separate article, or is it kind of within what we've already done? Just give me some guidance gives us some guidance on that.
Yeah, I'm a little just unsure of what exactly a motion or vote would need to be tonight based on what Corey just said. Chris?
The 200,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, or anyone else, would be part of the overall project cost, but it would it would be something that would need to be voted on in May, because I believe the funding to this point will have been used for design and all of that.
Correct. There was the first round of funding up to, I think, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, about $700,000. There was a second chunk of money that was asked for and was approved, but that was only going to be approved if the project was approved by the town. So we kind of have another 750,000 in there that only would have kicked in if the project was approved. So it's an approval that does no good for cost right now. So this 200, is in addition to that, but ultimately the 700 plus the 700 plus the 200 will all be part of the overall 15 that we're talking about total project budget, trying to keep it to.
Okay, so I mean, a motion here could be just to, I guess, endorse we're doing the endorsing of articles thing again, of creating an article for the warrant that appropriates $200,000 for this change of mechanism. Is that?
I think that
makes sense. Okay.
I think that makes good sense.
Yeah, correct.
So moved.
Okay, so we have, is that a motion? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion, Jean?
I'm not opposed to the 200. I just want to see the warrant article before I actually vote on it. That's all. If this is just one, something.
Yeah, we're not voting on the specific warrant article yet. We'll have to vet that language anyway. Okay.
Yeah, this motion is to direct me to work with council to create a warrant article, right?
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And this is endorsing the recommendations that the committee.
Diane, you muted yourself.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, I think we're all on the same page about what we're voting on, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If no further discussion, roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dippledy.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Yay. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a direction. Thank you.
Very
exciting.
Okay.
Very.
Motion to adjourn the town hall committee.
Oh, you like that.
Aye. Thank you very much. Be in touch.
All right. Thank you, town hall gang. You're all wonderful. All right. Whew. This has been a busy meeting, but we've gotten a lot done. All right. Town manager update.
All right, I promise to be quick.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry.
On the motion, I want to thank everyone who worked over this past weekend for the epic blizzard, particularly DPW and facilities who are out there all the time digging and plowing and fixing. Elder Affairs who spent a lot of time checking with seniors, making sure everybody was okay. Fire who do their jobs in all kinds of weather, cold and snow and sun, and everyone else who took part over the weekend. So thank you very much to everybody. And I'm very grateful that the power stayed up. That was good for everybody. I know we had some little outages here and there, but those were corrected fairly fast. So while it's going to be with us for a little while, even with the rain, it was the staff did a great job, and I want to thank them all for all their hard work. I also want to give everyone a reminder that the citizens petition deadline for the annual warrant is February 14th. That's 2 weeks from yesterday. Next Tuesday, a week from today, from noon to 2, we'll hold an open Zoom session for any residents who want to discuss the warrant article, a potential citizen petition. They can send me stuff in advance if they like to. I get it to council. We actually have one of those already in process. So we actually have one group that's already sent me some information. So, and Carolyn has that information. So we're going to be meeting with them that day. So if anyone has any potential citizen petition that they'd like to vet, you get it to my office before the 8th. I'll get it to council, and then you can take part in that Zoom session February 8th from noon to 2. That's it.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Chris? All right, select board comments. We can do Jean, Corey, Jack, and Diane. And then me.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, just to echo Chris's thanks to all of our town employees and volunteers. Yeah, this was a big storm, and I think that we're lucky that we had so many people working so well together in order to help everyone get through it. I also wanted to highlight to people sort of related to the storm that there was an excellent resiliency forum that I know a lot of us attended, and it really brought home how we as a town need to begin more seriously addressing resiliency concerns, including when we're facing large storms like we were. I think we frankly got lucky last weekend, and that's probably going to be a continuing tale as we move forward, unfortunately. So I do think we have to start thinking about that. And the information is already on the Cohasset Harbor Committee's website in terms of the presentations, and hopefully the video will be up soon. But for those people who live really close to the coast and areas that are exposed, I think that it would be helpful to, just watch it and educate yourselves too.
Thank you, Jean. I agree. All right, Corey.
Yeah, on the topic of the storm, I'll want to echo and thanks to the Harbor Committee for that crazy, phenomenal presentation. But I posted on social, but the biggest thing you can do during a storm to help out our emergency services and yourself and your neighbors is to shovel out your fire hydrant. I posted my fire hydrant, somebody else posted theirs. I want to see every time there's snow, I want like a competition. I want us to get ribbons, best fire hydrant for this storm, because I think that's just, if we can make this cool, I mean, it could save someone's life. I mean, it's silly, but it really matters. So if you're listening and you're still on this meeting, please shovel out your fire hydrant whenever you can.
I think there's been some contests that have been done in the past with that. Maybe we need to bring that back with some little gift cards, or we can be creative in the future. It is a really good idea and people enjoy showing it on social media. All right, Jack.
Yeah, again, of course, the town was very well run during this storm. But, I think what we've noticed in the past couple of meetings is the resiliency of the citizens of Cohasset. Tonight, we saw the work product of a couple of very hardworking committees, Town Hall, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Affordable Housing Committee. Recently, we saw the Sewer Commission. We've seen the Water Commission. I know the Planning Board was up till 11 o'clock the other night. Concom is normally there till 11. These are unsung heroes of Cohasset, and they have their work product, their thought is just phenomenal, because they're developing the policies that allow us as select board members to make intelligent decisions, because they're doing the grunt work and and we get to do it. So I really think that the board needs to really salute these people. They're just fantastic. And I just wanted to say to each and every one of them, thank you. And for people who might consider getting involved in town government and say they don't because it doesn't make a difference, well, yes, it does. So please help us. Thank you.
All right, Diane.
Well, yes, it does. Obviously, ditto to what everybody said last week. There were two great forums, not only the resiliency one, but the field study with a lot of active engagement. And there can be more and should be more. And to Jack's point, there's so many people working really hard to keep us moving. Two unrelated things. RTF beach stickers. I know that I believe that they expire in March. And I just want to make sure that we are on top of that discussion, because I know they need time in approving what the next step is if we're going to make any changes. So that needs to get discussed. And then also the MMA conference, which was held virtually this year. Just a couple of takeaways. The Mass Select Board Association met on Friday. And one of the things that one of the presentations was from Lauren Goldberg from KP Law. And she talked about the importance per the open meeting law of people keeping their videos on during meetings, especially during hearings. So we're actually, this particular board's very good, but I know that it's not consistent. And I think just in terms of transparency and effective meeting management going forward, it's probably something we should just remind our committees and boards that, if they're meeting in public session, just to keep your video on. If you have to get up and go to the bathroom or whatever, or move your cat, just leave your screen on, because we do need to be present for our residents and citizens to participate in our government. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, ditto to what everyone has said. I'm really encouraged by all the progress going on so many different levels. We're juggling a lot of big balls like giant issues, it feels like, and I'm really encouraged about how much work has gone into so many of these issues. It feels like we're making a lot of progress, and it seems like we're going to have a very successful town meeting in May. So thank you to everyone.
I'm
That's
looking
all
at
I have.
I'm looking at Corey's eyes. I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna
Motion
beat
to
him.
adjourn.
Motion
right.
to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Jack.
Zach Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, sure, why not? Aye.
Jean Haley, sure, why not? Aye.
Diane Kennedy, I.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, good work tonight, everyone.
Well done. Everybody.
Have a good one.
Corey, now you can have it next week.